Warcraft Invasion of Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 426, Greening the Earth, Part 3. Although she has been lying in Lao Wang's spiritual world, she can also sense everything in the outside world. She saw Lao Wang crush the cosmic cube, take out the space gem, and then use the energy of the space gem to repair the cosmic cube and fill the part where the space gem was originally placed. Without the spiritual power of the sub-father level, it is impossible to detect abnormalities. How bad? Don't worry, your people will not lose. Lao Wang laughed. This is the knowledge obtained from the Book of Infinity. The cosmic cube was originally made with the power of the space gem. Lao Wang only repaired and filled it. It is not difficult. The only loss is a part of the cosmic cube energy, which is the last time Odin repaired the Rainbow Bridge. Wakanda paid the bill. 1,000 tons of vibranium are still lying in Wakanda's mines. The mining of vibranium is very troublesome and requires a whole set of processes. It cannot come into contact with air and must be stored in special containers. 1,000 tons. It takes a long time to mine. Anyway, we don't need so much for the time being. We can get about 10 tons for a search first and keep the rest in Wakanda. We can take it slowly later. Anyway, they dare not default on their debts. With these vibranium, all military equipment can be upgraded. The Azeroth Iron Soldier has now been developed to the 5th generation, and its technical content is on par with Tony's Mark 30. The energy core must be made of vibranium, and the external armor also requires a lot of vibranium. It is calculated that one Iron Soldier will weigh about 10 kilograms. 100 units is 1 ton. 1,000 tons of vibranium sounds like a lot, but in fact it is only enough to make 100,000 Iron Soldiers. With so many Iron Soldiers, there is no problem in beating the world. Even if the armed forces of all countries in the world are added together, they are not the opponent of 100,000 Iron Soldiers. In fact, 1,000 units may be enough. However, the premise is the Earth. In space wars, the role of steel soldiers is not very big, and the flight speed is limited. When 100,000 steel soldiers meet a Kree starship, the former must be destroyed. The thin external armor can't stop the energy weapons of the Kree starship, let alone the nuclear bombs that are more powerful than Big Ivan. Individual equipment is not the main force of interstellar wars. The main use of vibranium is still starships and small aircraft. The first generation of flying fighters of the Schengen Bureau did not use much vibranium, and the external armor was almost useless. It was mainly the core components that were used, and they could be reused, so the consumption was not large. But the second generation, which is now being developed, must have better performance than the first generation in all aspects. It must have the ability to directly resist the Chitauri single soldier combat aircraft, which requires energy absorbing external armor and energy conversion systems, and requires a lot of vibranium. The first generation of the Schengen starship was pieced together with the starships of the Accusation group, and almost no vibranium was used. But the second generation is different. It needs to integrate the technology of the Kree, Chitauri, and Earth to fully upgrade the first generation, which also requires a lot of vibranium. Another big one is the energy battery. The space stone continuously draws energy from the universe. This energy needs a container, and special containers are used to make energy batteries. Small ones like button batteries, large ones like the energy core of spacecraft, everything. Among them, batteries with larger capacity need vibranium, and there are many of them. Spacecraft, aircraft, steel soldiers, and energy centers around the world need them. Roughly speaking, if you want to function for the entire Earth, at least hundreds of tons of vibranium are needed. Relatively speaking, the individual equipment equipped for the top leaders of S.H.I.E.L.D. requires much less vibranium, which is nothing. The entire replacement of the Winter Soldier's mechanical arm is at most 20 kilograms. The tactical baton needed by Daredevil, the arm guard needed by Sky, the rapier needed by Eric. Add up all the things, less than 1 ton is needed. Lao Wang took a pencil and calculated for a long time and found that 1,000 tons of vibranium was actually just that, and it would be used up soon, and it would definitely not last until the 3rd stage. Wakanda will definitely not sell more vibranium, but there are so many precious mineral resources in the universe, and even vibranium is not the only one. Of course, all the resources that have been discovered have owners. Unless you rob or steal, you can only find them yourself. Thanos' double-edged sword can even break Captain America's vibranium shield. Thor's hammer is no worse than the vibranium shield. The soul battle blade of General Corvus, the gun of Proxima Midnight, and Gamora's dagger are all made of materials that are not inferior to vibranium. There are actually many kinds of metals and alloys in the universe that can compete with vibranium. Moreover, vibranium is not only found on Earth. The vibranium on Earth is also a meteorite that fell to Earth millions of years ago. The universe is so big, Lao Wang definitely doesn't believe that there is no other vibranium. Maybe the three empires, or advanced civilizations in the universe such as Xander and Sovi have mastered some resources. Of course, it is not easy to find enough vibranium in the vast universe. Relatively speaking, it is more reliable to exchange other materials directly from World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is a complete world with a wide variety of mineral resources. There are many kinds of mineral resources that are not less valuable than vibranium, which can be used to replace vibranium. Lao Wang has his own plans. He is not interested in leaving the Earth for the time being. He wants to get in touch with the Earth itself through his own efforts, so as to get feedback from the Earth, to help himself practice faster, break through the current, practice as soon as possible, and become a demigod level monk. If that time really comes, the universe is big and can be visited. The daily affairs of SHIELD are naturally handled by the 5 deputy directors, the heads of various departments and bases, and the Azeroth group also has a complete management organization. Lao Wang does not need to worry about these. In the next period of time, he will devote all his energy to practice. This kind of practice does not require seclusion, but only requires measuring the Earth with your feet. Simply put, he wants to travel the entire Earth, get in touch with every piece of land, use his spiritual power to completely penetrate the entire Earth, and help the Earth solve various problems: environmental pollution, land desertification, haze, ozone hole, glacier melting. If the Earth is a living organism, then it must have various diseases: skin diseases, respiratory system dysfunction, endocrine disorders. Although most of them are skin diseases and do not threaten the Earth itself, no one wants to be plagued by diseases, right? If you can help the Earth solve these problems, you will definitely win the friendship of the Earth, and your reputation will rise. As long as you get feedback from the entire planet, Lao Wang's cultivation will improve like a rocket, and it will not be a dream to be promoted to a demigod in 1 or 2 years. This is what Lao Wang wants to do. He chose China as his first stop. Decades of rapid economic development have come at a heavy price, just like Western countries many years ago. And now, it's time to make up for it. The ancient East is covered with a thick fog, and various pollutions make the world in people's eyes no longer clear. Looking at this natural environment, that is not much different from the previous life, Lao Wang feels a sense of emotion. The economic base determines the superstructure. Without money, everything is fake. These are all normal. The development of a civilization must experience various setbacks. As long as the general direction is correct, everything will get better and better. It is meaningless to abuse environmental pollution. The most important thing to do is to find a solution, not to engage in a war of words. Then speed up this process. Nature itself has the ability to purify the air. The emergence of clean energy will gradually reduce tail gas emissions. When the price of energy is reduced to a level that ordinary people can easily afford, people will naturally abandon less efficient mineral energy. Another very helpful method is to increase the green area around the world. Forests are the lungs of the earth. The increase in vegetation will continuously purify the air, absorb carbon dioxide, and convert it into oxygen, filter a large amount of dust and other pollutants in the air, and reduce it to a level that humans can bear and feel comfortable. This is the strength of druids, and it is not too difficult for monks. China's green area is not too high in the world, or very low. A big reason for this is that China has a large area of Gobi Desert. If these uninhabited deserts can be turned into Greenland, the green area will increase a lot at once, and the carbon dioxide absorbed and oxygen released every day will become more and more, making the Earth's breathing smoother and cleaner. With the increase of green area, the desert that was originally uninhabitable will become an environment suitable for human habitation. In this way, more and more people will migrate from the east to the west, and the social conflicts caused by population pressure will also decrease, which is a great help to the Earth itself. It is difficult to transform such a huge desert into an oasis relying on Lao Wang's own strength. But if other methods are used, it is not difficult. Azeroth, I want to exchange the seeds of the mother tree Gainiel. How many? 5. Chapter 427 Jian Mu, Part 1. Dunhuang, Mogao Grottos. After a hard day's work, Wang Xin stood up, stretched and yawned. She is a researcher here. She came here from an eastern city to work, and has been here for 2 years. At first, she was not used to it, because Mogao Grottos is located in a vast sea of sand. Although it has a unique exotic style, there are many customs and natural environments that are different from those in the eastern region. It's too dry. The endless blowing sand has completely cut off her habit of skincare. The whole set of cosmetics she brought with her has been gathering dust for 2 years. I don't know where they are thrown, and I can't find them. It doesn't matter. Dunhuang is worth studying and loving for a lifetime. At first, she just thought of it as a job, but now it has become a part of her life and she can't give it up anyway. It would be great if there was a forest here. Young people are always full of fantasies. People engaged in scientific research should be purer and cleaner than others. This is immature in the eyes of some people, but for them, those are not important. Serious research is the truth. After leaving Cave 96, Wang Xin turned and looked into the distance. She liked the feeling of looking out, which made her open-minded and not bothered by daily trivialities. Just then, a hint of green appeared in the sand sea as usual. How could this be possible? Am I dazzled? Wang Xin rubbed her eyes. Looking again, the green became bigger. She wanted a telescope very much now, but unfortunately she didn't have one. Is it a tree? But there is no water there. How could there be a tree? She felt very strange and decided to take a look. Of course, she couldn't get too close. After all, it was getting dark, and it was very dangerous to leave alone. The green became heavier and heavier, and soon became visible to the naked eye. Is it really a tree? She opened her mouth slightly, but her eyes narrowed. She had seen the scenery over there thousands of times, but she had never seen a tree, and a tree that big, and it was getting bigger and bigger. It was only about 10 meters just now, but now it has jumped to 30 meters, and it is still climbing at a speed visible to the naked eye. People engaged in scientific research should naturally believe in materialism, but Wang Xin is an exception. The Mogao Grottos are dominated by Buddhism. Of course, the localized Buddhism has been integrated with Taoist thought, and it is difficult to separate them. This made her understand and admire both myths. In fact, since the appearance of superheroes and dragons, many people believe that the ancient myths really exist. Could it be the legendary Bodhi tree or Jian Mu? She shook her head, knowing that it was impossible. It can't be a mirage, or am I hallucinating? The tree grew taller and taller, and soon exceeded 100 meters. This was unimaginable. It was the first time she had seen such a tall tree. This was just the beginning. Then, an even more amazing scene appeared. The sand layer, which was said to be tens of meters deep, suddenly disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye, and turned into a huge pit with a radius of at least 10 kilometers. How could this be possible? Wang Xin rubbed her eyes, unable to believe what she saw. Could it be that a huge cave appeared under the sand layer, sucking away all the sand? Then, an even more amazing scene appeared. As the sand layer disappeared, one azure door after another emerged, at least hundreds of them. A dragon-like water column gushed out and poured into the huge pit. What's going on here? Where did all the sand go? Where did all the water come from? What exactly is that tree? Wang Xin muttered to himself and suddenly heard a voice. What do you think it should be called? Wang Xin answered subconsciously. Jian Mu grows in the sky and earth, hundreds of feet high, and the gods go to the sky. That tree is so tall, it looks very similar to the legendary Jian Mu. Then call it Jian Mu. I like this name very much. This is a male voice, very nice to hear, with a different kind of charm, but also very strange. Wang Xin thought that it might be some disobedient tourist and turned around quickly, but he found that the man walked away slowly towards the direction of Jian Mu, one step at a time, clouds with every step, and soon disappeared in the sky. Height of 1.85 meters, slightly fat, very white and tender skin, can summon auspicious clouds. Could it be? A name emerged in Wang Xin's mind. Immortal Iron Fist. Lao Wang exchanged a total of 5 seeds, each of which was worth 100 grams of Azeroth's blood, the same as the one from the Panther goddess best. The seeds of the mother tree Garni contain the original natural energy given by the Titan Guardian Freya, and are full of vitality, and can survive in any environment. After soaking them in the water of the Eternal Well, he planted the first seed outside the Mogea grottos. This seed quickly took root and sprouted, and the roots penetrated 100 meters below, into the soil under the sand layer, absorbing nutrients and growing rapidly. Planting trees is the greatest magic weapon for controlling land desertification. This world tree named Jian Mu is still very small, only about 100 meters, but it has great potential, and is still growing. Even if it grows to 10,000 meters high, it is not impossible, and it will not take too long. In addition, with the first tree, a large amount of sand will be solidified, and more trees will appear, and it will soon become a large forest. An oasis will appear near the Mogea grottos. This oasis will spread in all directions. It may not take long for the former desert to become the world's largest green home. Of course, this requires water. So he opened hundreds of portals, separated the earth spirit and the storm spirit, sent the sand to the depths of the ocean through the portals, and then brought in seawater to turn it into a saltwater lake. It stands to reason that fresh water would be better, but China's freshwater resources are already quite tight, and if you want to purify seawater, although it is not impossible, it will take a long time. What Lao Wang lacks most now is time. Seawater is not as good as fresh water, but it is the same for the world tree, and it also plays a big role in controlling desertification. Until now, the earth spirit and the storm spirit are still there, and the portals are also there. The sand will continue to be transported away, and the silt on the seabed will continue to appear in the original place, together with the seawater. Maybe it won't take long, and there will be a second Qinghai Lake there. It is certainly not that simple to control environmental pollution and land desertification. It is not something that can be done by just planting trees. But at least a solid foundation has been laid, which has reduced the difficulty of these two things by at least one level. As for what to do next, Lao Wang has no idea, just leave it to the experts in this area. If they do it, Lao Wang will naturally let the Schengen Bureau and Azeroth Group strongly support it. But if they don't do it, once Lao Wang gets angry, I'm afraid no one will have a good life. This is the first stop. China is too big, and there are many places that need greening. But before that, there is one more thing to do. Heart of Azeroth. It's time to activate new abilities. As the supreme artifact in World of Warcraft, the Heart of Azeroth has many incredible abilities, which are generally related to the titans of the Pantheon. So far, only 2 of these abilities have been activated. One is Azeroth's Eternal Favor, which comes from the most potential Titan Azeroth. The other is Mimiron's Deconstruction Matrix, which comes from the Titan Guardian Mimiron, and Mimiron's ability comes from the Master of Arcane, the Pantheon Titan Norganon. The activation of each ability consumes a lot of Azeroth's blood. Although Azeroth's Eternal Favor doesn't consume much blood, it is one of the most important abilities of the Heart of Azeroth. It has a very low lower limit and a very high upper limit. The real blood consumption is in use. Satorak's Crimson Band alone consumes hundreds of Azeroth's blood. Mimiron's Structure Matrix consumes a full 100 points of Azeroth's blood. The same is true for the ability that Lao Wang is going to activate next. Miss, I want to activate Freya's Natural Covenant. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 428 Ancient Protector, Part 2. Received. Thank you for giving me 100 points of my blood. As the blood disappeared, a green light suddenly burst out, illuminating the interior space. The Heart of Azeroth was shining brightly, and even Lao Wang was illuminated. He was covered with a layer of green light all over his body, and his new ability had been activated. In his previous life in World of Warcraft, in 10 years, he made countless people's heads and even bodies turn green, and he became the public enemy of male creatures. In this life, he has always kept himself clean, and he was not interested in Melinda and Black Widow who came to his door. He didn't cuckold anyone, but he didn't expect that a touch of green appeared on his head. Although there is an essential difference between the two kinds of green, it still makes Lao Wang a little unhappy. An ethereal voice sounded, and the new function was like a beautiful girl in gauze, timidly lifting the corner of her skirt. Freya's natural covenant. The covenant between Freya and nature is engraved on you. Through constant communication, you will get in touch with nature and get its help. Unlocked. Freya is the guardian of life. All plants in Azeroth are born because of her. They are either seeds she planted herself, or born in the cradles of life she created. Mount Higil, Vale of Eternal Blossoms, Ungororing Mountain, Sharlaza Basin. Even the Emerald Dream was reshaped by her. All the wilderness demigods are her pets. She is the source of druid heritage and the source of all life in Azeroth. The ability named after her is naturally very powerful. Monks already have the ability to manipulate natural energy, and Freya's natural covenant brings this ability to a high level. If you want to get enough feedback from nature, Lao Wang's own ability alone will have limited effect. But if you get Freya's help, everything will come naturally, just like pouring a whole bottle of lubricant, without any friction resistance. The green light penetrated into Lao Wang's body, engraving one natural rune after another, and finally left a leaf-like natural mark on his forehead, and then slowly disappeared. Freya, like other Titan Guardians, is a Titan creation of the highest level, belonging to the high-level demigod level. Her strength and ability are not much different from the Green Dragon Queen Asura, and she may even be stronger. Therefore, this ability related to her is much more powerful than any blessing from a demigod. After only a moment, Lao Wang felt that the connection between himself and nature was getting closer and closer, and he even felt a blood connection, as if he was the guardian of nature and the eldest son of nature. This feeling was only experienced once in his previous life, when he rode Asura in the Emerald Dream. Lao Wang raised his hand, and green natural energy fell on Jianmu. This world tree, which had entered a slow growth period due to the exhaustion of the Eternal Well, suddenly accelerated its growth rate, just like applying 10,000 bags of fertilizer and 1,000 barrels of growth-enhancing drugs. Its root system became more and more developed, and it absorbed more and more nutrients from all directions. Now I'm probably a druid? Lao Wang couldn't help but smile. When he played World of Warcraft in his previous life, his favorite profession was not the monk, but the druid. Unfortunately, he didn't open the transmigrator agency, and he couldn't choose what profession to choose after the transmigration. Even if he wanted to learn, he couldn't. After all, the Pandaren didn't have the druid profession. At that time, he was trapped on the Wandering Island. If he didn't learn something, and didn't become a monk, he couldn't even get out. The worst thing was that he couldn't even beat the lazy PO next door who would never stand when he could sit, or lie down when he could. How could that be possible? After leaving the Wandering Island, he was always busy and never had time to study hard and improve every day. Although he had a very good relationship with Brawl Bearmantle and the Green Dragon Queen Asura, he really had no mood and no time to become a druid. Unexpectedly, this life actually made up for his regrets in disguise. He was not even an ordinary druid. He was at least at the level of Brawl Bearmantle and Fanrel Stagelm. He was on par with the world druid Malfurion Stormridge, and was only one step away from the legendary world druid. If he changed his job to a druid now, his future would definitely be bright. His potential would be greater than Malfurion, and it would not take long for him to become the second world druid. With this ability, Jianmu's growth rate will inevitably accelerate. It won't take long for the world tree that is personally cared for by the legendary druid to grow to the level of the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life, the Ancient Tree, the Eternal Tree, the World Tree. The trees in Azeroth have a special classification method. Generally speaking, if an ancient elven tree grows normally for 1,000 years, it will reach the level of the tree of life, and if it grows for 10,000 years, it will be the ancient tree. If it continues to grow, it will be the eternal tree, which means it can grow forever and never die. As for the world tree, it has little to do with the age of the tree. Only the seeds of the mother tree Gani can grow into the world tree, and they must be carefully cared for, and absorb a large amount of the essence of the eternal well, so that they can have a blood connection with the world itself. Although the Jianmu tree is less than 1 day old, it is of noble origin. Its seeds have been soaked in the water of the eternal well, and it is taken care of by the old king himself. Naturally, its growth rate is much faster than that of ordinary trees, and it is not far from the tree of life. It is a wonder of the world, and it is hard to guarantee that no one will miss it. It must get a few bodyguards. The world tree in World of Warcraft is guarded by many druids, night elves, jungle guardians, fur monsters, etc. But even so, the final result is not too good. Nordrassil was first climbed and sucked by Archimonde the Defiler, and then invaded by Ragnaros the Fire Lord, and was almost burnt to ashes. Tildrassil's experience was not so tortuous, but it was still burned by someone. Vordrassil suffered the most. It was polluted by the power of the ancient god Yogg-Saron and Northrend, and eventually had to be destroyed by the druids themselves. The Marvel world is not as beautiful as the world of Warcraft, and it is equally full of disasters. If you say that no one cares about the world tree, Lao Wang is the first to not believe it. We must take precautions. Although it is entirely possible to let Adam and Eve keep an eye on it and notify me as soon as something happens, it also takes time. This place needs inherent power to protect it. The world tree itself is the essence of nature, and it is natural that it must be protected by nature itself. Power of nature, listen to my command. The dry wind in the desert took away Lao Wang's whispers, and the thick branches broke one by one and inserted themselves into the lake. Lao Wang waved his sleeves, and drops of water from the eternal well fell into it. So they began to take root and sprout, growing rapidly, becoming thick and strong, and becoming lush and leafy. Then at a certain moment, they opened their spiritual wisdom. The branches turned into ancient trees, and then into ancient protectors. Their age is far from ancient, but they uphold the natural will of Azeroth in ancient times and the eternal natural will of the earth. In most cases, they still maintain the form of trees, taking root in the earth to absorb nutrients. When necessary, they can pull their roots out of the ground at any time, becoming veritable earth walkers, using their strong bodies and powerful branches to fight any enemy and protect the safety of the world tree. That should be enough. Lao Wang Lingsu stepped up the steps, came to the other side of the cloud and sky, and rode the wind and clouds away. Chapter 429. I'm the Earth. Part 3. This day is a special day for everyone in China and even the whole world. A huge saltwater lake appeared outside the Mogao grottos in Dunhuang, and a towering tree appeared in the lake. No one knew how all this happened until a researcher named Wang Xin revealed the details. It was actually related to the immortal Iron Fist. It is said that the immortal Iron Fist even personally gave the tree an oriental name, Jianmu, the legendary tree that allows mortals to communicate with gods. This was soon officially confirmed by the Shengan Bureau. And there is more than one such miracle. Taklamakan Desert, Changbei Mountain, Kindling Mountains, Loess Plateau. 4 different towering trees appeared in 4 different places. They belong to different species, but have the same characteristics. They all grew over pass, and are unique miracles of nature. It is difficult to understand how such a miracle was born. The spokesperson of the Shengan Bureau said that he did not know. The only one who knew the truth, Director Wang, disappeared without a trace. No one could get in touch with him, and this matter became an unsolved case. Some people speculated that it was related to Kunlun. Kunlun has not made any statement, and it seems to have tacitly acknowledged this fact. Even Xiaolao came several times, as if to prove something, of course, maybe just out of curiosity. Of course, some people speculated that it was related to aliens, alien technology or alien species. The Shengan Bureau also did not come forward to refute the rumor, which is very intriguing. The only thing that can be confirmed is that the purpose of Director Wang planting the 5 towering trees is to purify the air. control desertification, and contribute to making China's natural environment better. This quickly won the appreciation and recognition of the Chinese people. Some people even suggested that Director Wang should be helped to return to China and obtain Chinese nationality. After research, relevant experts found that the vitality of these giant trees is very strong. As long as it is not destroyed by human beings, it is impossible to die. As time goes by, the miracle created by Director Wang is still there. The 5 world trees are growing bigger and bigger. Their branches are cut down one by unknown people and planted next to them, and then they take root and sprout and grow into new trees. No one has seen who that person is, but everyone knows that it must be Director Wang. But no one knows where he is, as if he has become a real immortal. He is an immortal. Shenangjia. Deep in the dense primeval forest, Lao Wang walked slowly, followed by a black panther. Her body shape is similar to that of an ordinary leopard, slender and elegant, exuding a mysterious aura. Here, it's almost done. Feeling the feedback from the entire Shenangjia, Lao Wang showed a satisfied smile on his face. There are not many primeval forests in China, and Shenangjia is one of them. There are many ancient trees and many ancient animals here. In the previous month, he had been living here, constantly getting in touch with the entire forest, helping the forest in his own way, and also getting feedback from the forest. A large amount of natural power was fed back to Lao Wang through the Freer's natural covenant, nourishing his body and strengthening his physique, so that he could accommodate more true energy. As time passed, 1 month of practice was equivalent to a year before. Lao Wang's cultivation level rose rapidly. He was no longer a novice who had just entered the realm of a grandmaster, but a veteran, a skilled worker. The total amount of true energy is about twice that of a month ago. Even the soul is nourished, and the mental strength has increased. Most importantly, as the connection with this forest is strengthened, he can mobilize the power here and enhance his strength as long as he is here. If his combat power is 5 in other places, then here it is at least 10, which is doubled. In addition, these 5 world trees are not only planted in China, but also in his spiritual world. They are also between illusion and reality, connecting Lao Wang with the spiritual and physical worlds, and also have a basis for the transformation from illusion to reality. Those who die near the world tree will be guided by the world tree, enter the spiritual world, and become citizens of the spiritual world. And when they are still alive, they will occasionally enter Lao Wang's spiritual world in dreams, become tourists, and contribute part of their own strength. In this way, Lao Wang's spiritual world will become more and more stable and powerful. Maybe one day, my spiritual world will become hell, heaven, the netherworld, and the kingdom of God on earth. Many people die every day all over the world. If all these dead people can be reborn in the old king's spiritual world, it is equivalent to a shell company with a large number of employees. The performance and size are naturally not comparable to what they are now. The reason why the dream of Azeroth can extend to the depths of the universe is probably related to the trillions of creatures in her body. Unfortunately, the blood of Azeroth is not enough. During this period of time, the blood of Azeroth obtained at the beginning has been consumed. In the absence of income, there is no way to exchange for more seeds of Ganeal. Otherwise, the world tree can be planted all over the world. The influence range of each world tree is limited. As they grow taller and taller, the root system becomes more and more developed, and the canopy becomes larger and larger. The range of influence will also become larger and larger. The first world tree in Azeroth, Nordrassil, can not only affect Mount Higil, but also extend to surrounding areas, such as Felwood Forest, Ashura, Dark Coast, and even the entire Kalimdor continent. You must know that the total area of Kalimdor is roughly equivalent to South America and North America combined. It was under its influence that the Night Elves established a connection with the Emerald Dream and the Druids began their journey of sleep. Later, the Night Elves planted more world trees such as Vordrassil and Tildrassil, as well as a large number of ancient trees and trees of life, further deepening the connection between the Emerald Dream and the real world of Azeroth. Unlike Azeroth, the Earth does not have so much energy supply, and the growth of the world tree is certainly not as good as Nordrassil or Tildrassil, and the scope of influence is limited. But if enough are planted, it can also affect the world. If that time really comes, Lao Wang's spiritual world will be connected to the entire Earth and inseparable. In this case, his spiritual world may be equivalent to the Earth version of the Emerald Dream. His dream is the dream of the Earth. He is the Earth. It's time to change places. There are many virgin forests in the world, and the largest one is located in South America, that is, the Amazon forest. If he can get the recognition and feedback of the entire Amazon forest, Lao Wang believes that he is not far from breaking through to the demigod. Suddenly, a slight vibration caught his attention. The vibration came from the communicator on his wrist. It looks not much different from the Atalan bracelet, but it is actually a military communicator of the Kree Empire. It is very effective, and can communicate across dozens of galaxies. Of course, the current signal does not come from the depths of the universe, but from the Azeroth laboratory. After pressing a certain button, Fitz's projection appeared. He was delighted and stammered, boss, I confessed to Simmons. Congratulations. Lao Wang was stunned. You confessed? It's none of my business. Don't affect my practice, okay? It's like this. I confessed this morning, and Simmons agreed on the spot. We talked for an hour, and felt that we were a good match, so we planned to get married. Fitz said happily, we would like to ask you to be the witness, do you think? Is it okay? Damn, are scientists so impatient? I'm like that. Since people have come to him for help, he couldn't let his subordinates down, so Lao Wang readily agreed. Okay, when are you getting married? Let me know in advance, so I can prepare the manuscript. I haven't written for many years, so I don't know if I'm rusty yet. Tomorrow. Fitz blushed and was shy. Chapter 430 A Brand New Era, Part 1. Lao Wang, are you all ready? Don't you want to communicate with your family? Don't you need to prepare? Is the bridal chamber ready? Have you invited the MC, best man, bridesmaid, macup, etc.? You also need to invite relatives and friends. You can't do this for a flash marriage. Too much. You are so careless. Aren't you afraid that Simmons will kick you out? Actually, I haven't prepared anything. Fitz was a little embarrassed, but Sky said that everything is not a problem. She allocated us the largest single family villa as a new house. It was originally fully decorated, no one has lived in it yet, so it can be used directly. She also specially asked Miss Crystal to summon the power of wind to help clean it. You can't even touch a bit of dust with white gloves. In addition, she gave an order to Dan Huang, using A-level authority to mobilize resources, and called on everyone in the laboratory to help. Everything that needs to be arranged tonight can be arranged. The invitations have been sent to the people who need to be invited. Those who are far away will be picked up directly by flying fighter jets. Mr. Stark said he can help host the wedding. Matt said he will find someone to register our marriage immediately. Arika suggested a live broadcast on the entire network, and Princess Shuri said she can have someone send Wakanda's virtual equipment over, so it won't be a problem to make it a royal wedding. Lao Wang didn't know what to say. A group of scientists and superheroes to organize the wedding? Why does it sound so unreliable? Do we have to let Hulk come out to perform his chest-breaking stone? Ghost Rider perform fire-breathing, call Thor to come over and discharge electricity, and call Black Bolt to perform pantomime? Whatever you want. Lao Wang felt tired. He was just a witness, so he didn't have to do much, so he didn't bother to care. Anything else? If not, I'm dead. I'm practicing in seclusion. One more thing. Fitz's face turned serious. We have integrated the technologies of the Kree, Chitauri, Wakanda, and of course our own technology to develop a safe, reliable and pollution-free new energy battery. If you agree, we can put it into production. Lao Wang's eyes lit up. This is the real business. Are you all here? He asked. All of you. Fitz replied. As soon as he finished speaking, Lao Wang's voice rang in his ears. Tell me about it. What's the specific situation? Looking back, Lao Wang and Buster have appeared. Infinite Gem Laboratory. The space gem is suspended in a complex and sophisticated device, bound by a strange force field to ensure that the energy it releases will not cause harm to the people here. Fitz pressed a button, and a sealed cabin about the size of a billiard table emerged and opened automatically, revealing dozens of small cubes. These small cubes are of different sizes and materials, so the energy contained in them is naturally different. The smallest is only as big as a button, and the largest is several sizes larger than the cosmic cube, about the same size as a large double-door refrigerator. It is made of vibranium, and the vibranium consumed alone is about 50 kilograms, worth $500 million US, which is very expensive. These energy batteries are different from the arc reactor Fitz introduced. The arc reactor is essentially a small controlled nuclear fusion reactor, and the material for nuclear fusion is the isotope of the cosmic cube. But these energy batteries are completely condensed energy, bound by a special force field, and do not need to undergo nuclear fusion reactions at all, so they are safer and more efficient. Lao Wang didn't understand. He understood the literal meaning, but he didn't understand how it was done. I guess even a random scientist outside wouldn't understand it. It's too high-end. This is not important. What about the cost and capacity? This is what Lao Wang cares about most. The smallest button battery costs less than $100. Yes, you heard it right, less than $100, and most people can afford it, which is similar to the lithium battery of electric motorcycles. Of course, this is just the cost, and you have the final say on the selling price. Sky said that there is no money to be made in this aspect, and the money is made from charging. Fitz said, but its energy can probably allow an electric motorcycle to travel 1000 kilometers at a speed of 180 km/h. As long as the battery itself is not damaged, it can be recharged repeatedly, and the number of recharges is more than 10,000 times. $100, 180 km/h, 1000 kilometers, 10,000 times. It sounds awesome. Lao Wang was happy in his heart, but he remained calm on the surface. What about it? He was referring to the largest energy battery, which was the double-door refrigerator. It's actually not full of energy yet. We can't increase the input power of the space gem, and the equipment can't bear it. Fitz said, if it is full, it is about the equivalent of 100 million tons of gasoline. Do you understand what I mean? Lao Wang certainly understands 100 million tons is 100 million tons. There are 7 billion people in the world, and each person weighs more than 100 kilograms on average. An ordinary car can drive hundreds of kilometers without any problem. In other words, this refrigerator in front of us is enough for 7 billion people in the world to drive hundreds of kilometers. This is not a small number. It is prepared for the Schengen. Fitz said, as long as it is charged once, it can be used for a long time. Lao Wang nodded. The output power of the space gem is still very high, far above the cosmic cube. Of course, the laboratory equipment is limited in all aspects, and it is impossible to maximize the output power of the space gem. Even Lao Wang can't do it, because he doesn't have enough ancient knowledge, and can't fully master the space gem. Lao Wang even suspects that even Thanos may not have mastered all the knowledge of the infinity gems. It is likely that he is just a half bottle of water that keeps shaking. Otherwise, how could he not even beat the Avengers? It's embarrassing. Tony, you have experience in this area. You decide how to sell it, and how much it should be sold for. Lao Wang said, I remember we have an Azeroth Clean Energy Co. Limited. How about this? I'll give you 10% of the shares, and the rest of you will invest in technology. How about 20%? Isn't that too much? Fitz was a little scared. Azeroth Clean Energy Co. Limited will definitely have a global monopoly. By then, the annual profit it creates will probably be more than all the oil, natural gas, and coal mining companies in the world combined. Even if it's only 20%, it can make the scientists at the station become billionaires, and the kind that are on the Forbes Global Rich list. It's not for you alone, but for the entire R&D team. I will let Dunhuan calculate the contributions of all of you, and distribute shares according to your contributions. Lao Wang smiled and said, no matter how poor you are, you can't be poor in education, and no matter how hard it is, you can't make scientists suffer. In addition, take out 10% to invest in basic education. The future of mankind cannot rely on you alone. We must also cultivate a reliable and capable next generation. Money is something that is not enough to spend if it is too little, and it is meaningless if it is too much. Instead, it is a responsibility. Lao Wang has no concept of money. It doesn't matter how much he gives to others. The reason why he takes the biggest share is that he provided the space gem, the company is his, and all the people are his. Moreover, only when the money is in his hands can he use it to do practical things. If it is left in the hands of others, it is hard to guarantee that there will be selfishness. A brand new era is coming. Dr. Banner sighed. This is not only an era of unlimited energy, but also an era of rapid improvement of personal quality. So Dr. Banner, you and Dr. Simmons have to work hard to research low-level serum that can be popularized by the whole people as soon as possible. Lao Wang laughed and waved his hand. Okay, do what you need to do. Fitz's wedding must be done well, and your weddings will also follow this standard in the future. After driving everyone away, Lao Wang picked up the Mind Scepter and put it into the Heart of Azeroth. Chapter 431 Analysis of the Mind Scepter, Part 2. A ray of spirit entered it, and the remaining little blood of Azeroth was quickly consumed, and a full 100 points disappeared quickly. He wanted to analyze the Mind Scepter. The Grandmaster refined his spirit, and transformed it into a spirit. The stronger the spirit, the stronger the mind. If he could obtain the power of the Mind Scepter, he could make better use of his powerful mental power, and have stronger means of attack and defense. Ancient One said that now there are many people in the entire universe and even the multiverse who are eyeing him. Basically all of them are sub-fathers and fathers. Although as long as Ancient One is still alive, those guys dare not be presumptuous, but there is no guarantee that they will not send their men to deal with him like Thanos did. Others don't know the current state of Ancient One, but as Ancient One's mortal enemy, Dormammu knows it clearly. He knows better than anyone that Ancient One will not live for a few years, and will soon die. In order to make Ancient One die as soon as possible, he will definitely send people to harass him continuously. It is said that during this period, Kamataj and the three major temples are under great pressure. Many existences in the multiverse are ready to move, and the magic forces that infiltrate or attack the Earth are increasing and becoming stronger. If it weren't for the help of Wanda and Crystal, they might not have been able to hold on when Ancient One couldn't take action. If Dormammu really came, Ancient One would definitely not be able to hold on, and would have to rely on Lao Wang. Dormammu is no longer the wizard he used to be, but a magical entity, a collection of energy and soul. If you want to deal with him, you must use magic and soul level power, and mental power, and mind magic are the external manifestations of the essence of the soul. Alexander. The next day, Fitz's wedding was held as usual. The Azeroth laboratory has been operating at a high intensity. In the face of a large number of topics, all scientists are obsessed, and wish they could eat and live in the laboratory. There are few opportunities to relax like now. Lao Wang announced that the entire laboratory would be on holiday. He would do nothing on this day and concentrate on holding a wedding for Fitz and Simmons. Sky was very concerned about this matter, which made Lao Wang smell something unusual. How could this be a wedding for Fitz and Simmons? This is obviously killing the chicken to scare the monkey. Bah, it's obviously done for someone to see. After a whole day of bustling and lively, there was an indescribable sadness when the music ended and the crowd dispersed. Everything beautiful will eventually pass, and the end of all gatherings must be separation. Lovers in the world will eventually become dry bones, and for me, I will inevitably usher in a big separation and say goodbye to the whole world. Lao Wang has a feeling that day is not far away. After a full 24 hours, the analysis of the Mind Scepter was completed. Analysis completed. This item is a legendary equipment with a total of 326 defects. Do you want to optimize and reconstruct it? No. The Mind Scepter belongs to Wanda. She snatched it from Loki. Even if the other party is willing, Lao Wang will not take it for himself. If Wanda now has enough ability to master the Mind Stone, Lao Wang would not mind taking it down and then integrating the scepter into the Heart of Azeroth. But it doesn't work. Wanda doesn't have enough ancient knowledge, and she can't directly call on the power of the Mind Stone. She must rely on the Mind Scepter. Continue browsing, and messages appear one by one. The Mind Scepter has the following abilities. Telepathy. The holder has a certain degree of telepathy. If the holder has telepathic ability, this ability will be enhanced to a certain extent. Psychic protection field. Create a telepathic protection field. You can freely choose the range of the force field. The larger the range, the more energy it consumes. Mental projection. Specify a coordinate to project part of your mind to the destination. The ability of this projection is related to the strength of the mind and can call upon the power of the mind staff to a certain extent. Mental control. Memory steal. It has many functions. The origin of the mind staff is mysterious. Only Thanos knows who it was taken from. Like the cosmic cube, it was also created with the power of the infinity stones, but the material used seems to be better than the cosmic cube, and the value is also higher. It is far more than the disintegration staff. Although the functions of the mind staff are much more than the cosmic cube, the total value of all functions is roughly the same. Telepathy is a very common ability. Basically every superhero or villain with a strong mind has it. Of course, some are strong and some are weak. Some can only establish a mental connection with another person, and some can even kill 99.99% of the people on the entire earth in an instant. Lao Wang also has this ability, but he is not very good at it. If it can be strengthened, it would be better. Psychic protection field is a defensive method. It will be very effective when facing enemies who are good at psychic abilities, such as Dormammu. Psychic projection is a very special ability. Loki and Superstar have used it before. Although the projection is not very strong, it brings convenience in many cases, and is very suitable for showing off. Mind control is also a relatively common ability, and it can only control those whose mental strength is at least one level weaker than its own. It sounds great, but it is actually not very useful. The value of memory steal is lower than that of mind control. Because the mind scepter has not been absorbed, if you want to get these abilities, you must reconstruct them inside the Heart of Azeroth, which requires a lot of materials. There is not much blood of Azeroth left before, but if it is only used for reconstruction, it is not a problem. It is barely enough. 1 hour later, optimization and reconstruction completed. New functions of the Heart of Azeroth: telepathy, telepathic force field, mental projection, mental control, memory stealing, telepathy, telepathic force field, putting the mind scepter back to its original place. The Heart of Azeroth emits a warm yellow light. Lao Wang bathed in it and released his mind again, covering the world. In the past, releasing the mind only used the power of the mind itself, and the utilization rate was too low. But now, telepathy has been achieved on a global scale. The Heart of Azeroth is like Professor X's brainwave enhancer, which enhances Lao Wang's ability. He can directly read the memory and thinking of others, and can control and deprive almost everyone on the earth of their ability to act. He is equivalent to another Professor X, even stronger than Professor X. All shadows will reappear in the light, and all evils will have nowhere to hide. In my eyes, Lao Wang's mind swept across every corner of the world, and saw one evil after another. If the water is too clear, there will be no fish, and if the person is too careful, there will be no followers. As long as people are still there, evil is inevitable. The kingdom of saints does not exist, and heaven and hell are sad, because they are too simple. The real world must be rich and colorful. There is good and there is evil. There are all kinds of contradictions, so there are all kinds of wonderful things. No matter who it is impossible to eliminate all the evils in the world, but at least some can be reduced. For Lao Wang, some behaviors are really intolerable. Drug production and trafficking of women and children, mass killings. No matter how powerful the mental power is, it is impossible to perceive all the evils at the same time. Even if you want to steal memories, you can only do it one by one and in batches. Lao Wang will implement the evils he has discovered to rule Daredevil and others, and let them arrest and punish them. As for him, there are more important things to do. The earth is such a small place, and there are quite a lot of guys who sneak in. The 3 major temples are not omnipotent. As long as there is defense, there will be attacks and loopholes. I don't know how many big guys are planting pawns on the earth, and how many guys with ulterior motives are lurking on the earth. There are demons, visitors from hell, humans tempted by the power of darkness, and aliens who have been stranded on the earth for who knows how many years. These people have various means to avoid the monitoring systems of the 3 major temples, but it may not be so easy to avoid Lao Wang's global search. It will definitely take time to find them all. For Lao Wang, this is a rare opportunity to practice. cultivate oneself, manage the family, govern the country, and bring peace to the world. For Lao Wang, cultivation is self-cultivation, and the earth is home. If you want to manage your family, of course you have to solve the problems that exist on the earth itself, and then you can go one step further and move towards cosmic civilization. Let's start with you. The mind locked on a seemingly ordinary guy, and Lao Wang licked his lips. Chapter 432, Changes in Wakanda, Part 3. Do you remember everything that happened that day? Has your heart grown cold and your blood run cold? Do you still remember your real name? Do you still remember who you are and where your hometown is? I will never forget everything that happened that day until I die. My heart is still warm and my blood is still warm. I will inherit everything my father wanted to do. I'm not Eric Stevens, nor am I Killmonger. I'm Enai Jadaka, the son of Enai Job and a descendant of the royal family of Wakanda. I was born in Oakland, California, USA. I graduated from MIT and joined the Navy SEALs. I regard killing as a game. Every time I kill someone, I leave a scar on my body, and now they are all over my body. I have trained hard, told lies, and killed countless people. My whole life has been preparing for one thing. Everything I do is not just for revenge, but to inherit my father's legacy. I want to change this dirty world. You have no power. You were going to use Ulysses Claw's head to pry open the door of Wakanda, but now he is dead. What else can you do? How can you use the power of one person to fight against the entire Wakanda? I'm not fighting against Wakanda, but just my cousin and uncle, and during these 2 years of killing, you have given me this power. I also want to thank Director Wang. If it weren't for him and his laboratory inventing the super soldier serum, I wouldn't have become as strong as I'm now. You snatched the super soldier serum Nightblade from that official, and your physique is already comparable to Black Panther. You became my Black Sky container, and your repeated killings have plundered thousands of lives. Your strength is no longer something Black Panther can contend with. I can help you get the throne, but don't forget your promise. I haven't forgotten. When I become the king of Wakanda, I will order Wakanda to attack the Schengen Bureau and Kunlun. You will become stronger through repeated killings, and eventually destroy the hateful dragon Shao and the even more hateful immortal Iron Fist. Then, we'll rule the world together. This is the forest outside Wakanda, the place he longs for. Eric Killmonger, or Enai Jadaka, the wandering descendant of the Wakanda royal family, finally waited for today. He strode towards the border tribe. As long as he crossed the defense line, he could enter the country that belonged to him, my motherland. Who are you? Wakanda does not welcome outsiders. Please leave immediately. Wakabi frowned. The black man in front of him made him feel vaguely uneasy, as if there was a monster hidden in this man's body, and it was a monster that could destroy Wakanda. Who am I? You should know it after seeing it. Eric threw a black pendant over. There was a black ring on the golden necklace, and Wakabi's eyes suddenly widened. This is a vibranium ring. Such craftsmanship is only available in Wakanda. The pattern on this ring represents an identity, a member of the royal family. Who are you? Wakabi clenched the ring, feeling as if he was approaching a truth, a terrible truth, that was enough to drag Wakanda into the abyss. The panic in his heart made him want to reject this truth, but another voice sounded in his mind. You are the military minister of the kingdom, the patriarch of the frontier tribe, and the guardian of Wakanda. You have to protect Wakanda from outside invasion, but Enai Jadaka is not an outsider. He is a member of the royal family. This is a fight within the royal family. You should not participate. This is your duty. Take him to the Wakanda palace and let the king, queen, and elders decide his fate. This is what you should do. This is a bewitching voice. The words themselves are not brilliant, but they have a convincing power. It makes so much sense. Wakabi no longer hesitated and said, "Come with me." They soon came to the royal palace and met His Majesty the King. It turned out to be you. After seeing the royal token, the old king, who was already very old, seemed to have aged 10 years in an instant. The scenes that happened 20 years ago appeared in front of him one after another. He killed his brother with his own hands and abandoned his nephew to keep the secret. Now he regrets it. He does not regret killing his brother. He also didn't think of bringing his nephew back to Wakanda. He should have killed him at that time to eliminate the trouble forever. The kingship has no mercy, but now it's too late. The entire elders knew everything, and for some reason, they didn't say a word, just like the crowd watching the joke of the royal family. What he didn't know was that a voice sounded in the minds of several elders, telling them that Wakanda could have a larger territory and more wealth, and they would also get more power and better enjoyment, as long as they support Nijakuka instead of the old man sitting on the throne, who is old and hateful. What do you want to do? The old king asked coldly. Eric stepped forward. You must settle the crime of murdering my father. He is guilty. The old king said. You have to ask the elders. Eric sneered. What crime did Prince Anijob commit? We always thought he was missing, and that's what you've always claimed, Your Majesty. So there's such an important truth hidden in that incident. Maybe Prince Anijob is really wrong, but it should be judged by the Council of Elders, not by you, Your Majesty. The elders spoke one after another, and the old king's face became more and more ugly. What's wrong with these old guys? How could they betray? What do you want me to do? The old king suppressed his anger. You are not fit to be king. Wackerby suddenly said, abdicate. Abdicate? As soon as the words fell, the queen stood up and pointed at him angrily. Wackerby, you dare to ask the king to abdicate? You have been in power for so many years, and Wakanda has maintained its tradition for thousands of years, and has not contacted the outside world. Although Wakanda still seems to be the most technologically advanced country in the world, the gap between us and other countries is getting smaller and smaller. All this is your fault. Wackerby said, if we continue like this, it won't be many years before Wakanda is caught up by other countries. What should we do then? Wakanda has a small land area and a population far less than most countries. What should we do? Wakanda's national policy is not something you can decide. The queen said angrily. Wackerby, I order you to execute this impostor immediately. Wackerby did not move. The queen gritted her teeth and looked at the captain of the royal guard standing upright next to her. Wackerby's wife Okoye. Okoye, execute the order. Okoye did not move. No one moved. The old king looked at his queen and shook his head. Something was wrong. Everyone here was not right. The royal family had been isolated and targeted. Did these people have a plan in advance? No, absolutely not. So what happened? Great goddess, if you can hear my call, please show up. Otherwise, Wakanda will be finished. He prayed silently, holding a glimmer of hope in his heart. But after a full minute, there was still no response. I'm not the goddess's chosen one. My daughter, it seems that the only way is to let you come back. The old king touched a string of beads on his wrist. Those were black beads mixed with vibranium, which could be used for long-distance communications around the world. They were at least 50 years more advanced than the communicators of any country in the world. However, still no response. You blocked the signal? His heart was completely panicked. Could it be that even the Research Institute and the National Information Security Department betrayed him? Okay, I will abdicate. The wisdom accumulated over the years made him as calm as possible and make the most correct choice. According to tradition, T'Challa will automatically become the next king. But we can challenge. Wackerby said, as long as the challenge is successful, the challenger will be the new king. Dad, I accept the challenge. T'Challa is very confident in his fighting ability. I will definitely win. It can only be done this way. The old king sighed. The ceremony will take a long time to prepare and will be held in a month. No, that's not necessary. Wackerby said, I think the ceremony can be held now. The other elders agreed. The old king clenched his fists. Things were irreversible, and he could only agree. The ceremony was held on a cliff. Unlike normal ceremonies, there were not so many spectators this time. In addition to the royal family members and the patriarchs of the major tribes, only the royal guards were present. After drinking the potion that removes the power of the Black Panther, the shirtless T'Challa looked at Eric with a complicated expression. This is your last chance. Put down your weapons, so that we can still have room for negotiation. I will spare you, and accept you as a member of the royal family again. This is my greatest mercy. I'm different from you. I don't have ridiculous mercy. Eric said, I will kill you, just like your father killed my father. You can try. The two picked up their weapons and rushed towards each other. At this moment, a great force separated the two. A cloud of auspiciousness flew from afar, and on it was a strong and elegant black panther. And on her back was a slightly fat Chinese youth. Chapter 433, There is a beast in everyone's heart, Part 1. Director Wang. Seeing the old king appear, the old king was surprised, happy, afraid and angry. What surprised him was that the ability displayed by Director Wang was too incredible. He just flew over like this, riding on the clouds and mist, and even Wakanda's vibranium barrier had no reaction. There was no alarm. How did he do it? Was he not a human but a ghost? What made him happy was that, since Director Wang was here, he must be able to notify his daughter. Even if Chala was not a match for the fish that slipped through the net, his daughter could continue to challenge him. Besides, isn't the goddess sitting under Director Wang? She will definitely protect us. Goddess, have you considered the feelings of your people, that is, us? Buster's eyes, like the abyss of the valley, stayed on every Wakandan for almost a second, and then she lay on the ground and closed her eyes, feeling so bored. Before being awakened by the old king last time, she had been sleeping for hundreds of years. She didn't know these people at all, and she had no interest in them. She just wanted to end this farce quickly and then carry Director Wang to see the colorful world outside. I just happened to sense that some evil was happening here, so I came to take a look. I didn't expect to see such a good show. The old king laughed and looked around. His eyes stayed on each person for half a second and finally stopped on the old king. Your Majesty, are you going to abdicate? Isn't this a good thing? You are not very old. I think it's okay to continue working hard for Wakanda for a few decades. This is Wakanda's business and has nothing to do with you. Eric suddenly pointed at the old king and asked, why, Wakanda has declined like this? How did an outsider get in? If my father was still alive, he would defend Wakanda's territory and sovereignty to the death and would never let outsiders enter casually. Outsider? The old king stared at Eric, smiling. I have a good relationship with your Black Panther goddess. You have seen it. You dare to say that I'm an outsider? If I'm an outsider, then what is the guy in your body? The guy in the body? The old king was stunned, and Eric's face changed slightly. What are you talking about? Wakabi, since when can outsiders interfere with Wakanda's most noble and sacred ceremony? Wakabi immediately stepped forward and glared at the old king. You dare to interfere with the challenge ceremony. Outsider, you have committed a capital crime. You. Before he finished speaking, he saw the old king waved his hand, and he flew backwards and fell on the cliff hundreds of meters away, unconscious. If it weren't for the vibranium robe blocking him, he would probably die on the spot. Outsider, what do you want to do? Royal guards, capture him immediately. If he resists, he will be executed on the spot. Wakanda is in a state of war. Activate all weapons and kill him. The elders accused one after another and then flew to Wakabi one by one, unconscious. Swear to protect Wakanda to the death. All the royal guards picked up their spears and then flew backwards like dumplings, all unconscious. Under the deliberate manipulation of the old king, they fell to the ground in exactly the same posture, horizontally and vertically, and looked particularly neat. The people of a country must be neat and tidy. In less than half a minute, the only ones standing were the old king, the queen, Prince Chala, Zuli who was responsible for presiding over the ceremony, and Eric. Looking at the man in front of him, Eric felt an inexplicable panic in his heart. Although the beast in his body has been telling him not to be afraid, never be afraid, it has completely descended this time, killed so many people, and accumulated so much power. Anyone can deal with it, but is it really like this? Eric has no confidence at all. He has killed countless people, but there are times when he is afraid. That is now. He destroyed the ceremony without authorization and injured so many people. Are you going to watch it? Eric turned his fear into anger. I will never watch it like this. I will deal with the foreign invaders first, and then become king. When I become king, Wakanda will never be as humiliated as it is now. The old king sighed. This guy is a member of the Navy SEALs and a top student at MIT. Why does he feel like a fool? It is probably because he is affected by the guy in his body. It is normal and understandable that such an ancient thing is a bit foolish. Buster, solve your family's problems yourself. Lao Wang jumped off the Black Panther goddess, patted her butt and warned, this clone won't work. Wake up your original body. The gangster goddess couldn't help but roll her eyes and shake her tail in a trance. How long has it been since you last fought? The last time I fought, it seemed that the eagle god not far away came to pick a fight, but I abused him dozens of times and never dared to cross the line again. Counting back, it was probably in the early days of Wakanda's founding. At that time, some people here believed in another guy called White Ape God, who was killed by me. Until now, the tribe that believes in the White Ape God still doesn't care about me. It seems to be called Ape Tribe, and I don't know if those people are still alive. I haven't fought for so long, and you actually ask me to fight? You are so lazy. Buster stretched gracefully. After all, Wakanda is his territory. If something happens here, it is normal for Director Wang to not care. He should handle his own affairs by himself. How can he let outsiders laugh at him? Thinking of this, Buster quickly awakened his original body. A black figure came from the void, as if the body was condensed from the fog, and was 10 meters long. The old king and others knelt down hurriedly. As she approached step by step, a black gas emanated from Eric's body, condensed in front of him, and turned into a monster bigger than Buster. It looked like it came from ancient times, exuding an ancient and wild breath all over its body. It was covered with stratum corneum and thick hard shells, which seemed to be harder than dragon skin and dragon scales. It had 4 legs, each of which was extremely strong, even stronger than the ancient dragon. This black giant beast had a pair of scarlet eyes. With its appearance, an indescribable murderous breath filled the entire cliff. Being in it, even the old king was inevitably affected, and he had a new understanding of the power of the beast in his heart. What is it? The old king was shocked and angry. Such a monster actually entered Wakanda. What will it bring to Wakanda? Beast. The old king stood with his hands behind his back. All of them are controlled by the beast. It was different from before. The beast in front of him was obviously the real body that had descended, absorbing the original sin of killing and negative emotions that had been produced on the earth since ancient times. Just like the 7 evils of Azeroth, it was impossible to be completely eliminated and had already merged with human society. Although it was the real body that descended, it was actually just the condensation of all the invisible forces at present. The real beast is hidden in everyone's heart. The essence of human beings is beasts. Wisdom and civilization have transformed humans from beasts to humans, but beasts are still hidden in everyone's heart. Kindness and beauty will suppress this beast, but more and more negative emotions will activate and amplify it. When a person's beast breaks out completely, he is no longer a human but a beast. Beasts are often stronger, more brutal and more aggressive than humans. Anyone who is possessed by a beast will become irrational. From a certain perspective, the beast is different from any of the 7 evils, and is more like the ancient god Ashaj. Of course, there is no existence like the Lord of the Void behind the beast, so it is far less powerful than Ashaj. But for the Black Panther goddess, it is definitely a formidable enemy that cannot be underestimated. Lao Wang folded his arms and stepped aside. After all, the gangster goddess is a demigod of the wilderness. She has long realized the transformation of her own matter and energy, and exists as an absolute spiritual body. The beast itself is the product of the original sin of killing, and the condensation of human negative emotions. Emotions themselves are energetic and spiritual, so the essence of the beast is also spiritual. This is a spiritual battle close to the level of the Father. Such battles are rare. For Lao Wang, it is indeed a good show comparable to the Chitauri invasion and worth watching. Of course, if it is just for viewing, he doesn't need to come here in person. Just release a little bit of mental power. It can be done. Since he came, it is naturally, because there are more important things to do. The beast can never be completely eliminated, just like the 7 evils. Xiaohao can seal the 7 evils, and Lao Wang can naturally seal the beast. In another form. Chapter 434, Spiritual Seal, Part 2. The battle between the Black Panther goddess and the beast has begun. Such a battle cannot be watched by outsiders. If they are affected, they will either fall into a coma or become crazy. Lao Wang does not want the people present to be hurt. He has always been a kind person, and the Black Panther goddess does not want it either. After all, these are her people and she must work hard to protect them. So she directly used her extremely powerful spiritual power to pull the beast into the spiritual world and fight on the home field. The beast was shocked and angry. The reason why it dared to invade Wakanda was that it found the royal descendants of Wakanda, and it was also very clear that the gangster goddess Buster was a prehistoric old salted fish who would not even hum when put into the frying pan. She usually slept and never came out. She could completely solve the problem when she noticed the abnormality and control the entire Wakanda. In addition, as a spiritual entity that has existed since the birth of mankind, he is very clear about the strength of the Black Panther goddess Buster. He believes that even if that guy wakes up, he is not without the ability to fight. It doesn't matter if he can't beat him. At most, he can just run away. This world is full of killing, and a lot of negative emotions are generated every day. The number of humans has increased at a very fast rate, more than 10 times that of a few hundred years ago. Modern people's thinking is 10 times more active than that of ancient people, and because of the pressure of life and various influences, modern people's negative emotions are more and more intense than those of ancient people. More and more negative emotions not only accumulate, but the strength of the beast will also rise and become stronger. It can completely find a new container, strengthen itself in killing again and again, and wait for the opportunity to make a comeback. Since ancient times, it has chosen countless containers and set off countless killings. This time is just one of them. But it never thought that Buster, the bitch, had secretly created a spiritual world in which there were hundreds of Black Panthers hidden for thousands of years. The soul is not the body, and it will continue to grow with the passage of time. Although the soul strength and mental strength of those Black Panthers that have existed for thousands of years are far inferior to Buster, they are not much worse than Buster when added together. Enough to cause enough trouble to itself. In other words, it is equivalent to fighting two Busters. What's more terrifying is that for some reason, this spiritual world actually has a bit of the attributes of the real world. The small tree in the middle connects the two worlds, making Buster's spiritual world extremely stable. If it was before, but knowing that it could not win, it could decisively escape from Buster's spiritual world, and then run to a corner of the world to continue lurking. But now, it can't escape. Mental combat is far more dangerous than ordinary combat. And for this kind of indigenous gods who have not systematically learned the method of spiritual combat, mental combat is like ordinary gangsters fighting and shrews scolding on the street. There is no skill at all. Whoever has stronger mental power will inevitably win the final victory. With the repeated attacks of the gangster goddess Buster, the sharp claws left scars on the body of the beast. Its hard skin comparable to that of the ancient dragon could not stop Buster's claws at all, and was lifted and pierced piece by piece. Buster, the roar of the beast set off a storm of mental storms, trying to destroy the small tree in the middle. But for some reason, the ordinary looking tree was much stronger than expected. Being entangled by Buster, and besieged by hundreds of Black Panthers, it had no chance to get close to the tree and have a close spiritual contact. But soon, the situation took a turn for the better. It was a pure spiritual body. Any injury to it, any separation of its body parts, would cause the spiritual body to shrink and disintegrate. Those disintegrated forces turned into original sins and negative emotions again, constantly polluting Buster's spiritual world, and affecting all souls in the spiritual world. I can't beat you, but I can pollute you. This is the terrifying thing about this ancient monster. Meow. Even Buster panicked, yelling and jumping up and down in a hurry. Like Xiao Leo, she was a qualified salted fish, hiding in her own home all the time, and she would not go out if she could. As long as others didn't come to her, she would not take the initiative to cause trouble. Although she has lived for tens of thousands of years, she can count the number of times she has fought since she became a god with her 4 paws. Although she knew the existence of the beast, she didn't know much about it and had never fought with it. Before the fight, she was a little hesitant about the fight. If that guy hadn't refused to help, she wouldn't have come forward. When they just fought, she found that the other party was much weaker than her. Since they were fighting at home, she naturally had nothing to fear and became more and more courageous. Now, under the influence of the beast, she realized that it was not good. If she continued like this, although she would definitely destroy the body of the beast, all the negative emotions and original sins would be integrated into her spiritual world. At that time, not only would all the Black Panthers become irrational beasts, but she would probably be the same. There was no way to escape the most terrible result. You triumph. Buster slapped the beast away with one claw and shouted a little timidly, I won't stop you. You hurry up and leave my world and get as far away as the stars are. The beast snorted. Do you think I'm a lapdog? If you want me to come, I will come, and if you want me to leave, I will leave. I won't leave. Even if you kill me, I won't leave. Maybe I can completely pollute you and turn you into my container, my shape. With your power, I will become more powerful than ever. Even that damn immortal dragon can't be my opponent. I won't leave. I won't leave. Thinking of this, the beast became braver and braver, while Buster felt more and more uncomfortable. She couldn't fight or not fight. If she fought, the beast's body would collapse, and negative emotions would continue to pollute her spiritual world. If she didn't fight, the beast's strength would be slightly worse than hers, and she would hurt herself instead. It was like fighting wits and courage with a bucket of fesses. No matter what she did, it would be fesses. What should she do? Help, help me. Buster was completely scared and asked for help. You scream. It's useless even if you scream your throat out. The beast showed a humanized sneer on his face and rushed forward. It was originally immortal, because it would not die, so it would not be afraid or terrified, and naturally it would not fear death. As the saying goes, the soft are afraid of the hard are afraid of the poor are afraid of the arrogant, and the arrogant are afraid of the desperate. The beast is scarier than the desperate. It has countless lives, and can exert 15 points of its strength out of 10 points. As for a salted fish leopard, that likes to meow, it is worried and afraid, so cowardly that it can't even exert 30 points of its strength out of 10 points. This makes Lao Wang unable to bear to look directly at it. How can there be such a cowardly cheater? Complaints aside, help is still necessary, but before helping her, there is one more thing to do. An orange-yellow portal appeared, and Black Sky Erica walked out. Her face was grim, with a hint of expectation. Are you ready? Lao Wang asked. Always ready. Erica's answer was very straightforward. She clenched the vibranium cross rapier in her hand, closed her eyes, and adjusted her spirit to the best. Well, let's get started. The beast was still fighting hard, and suddenly the scene in her eyes changed drastically. The bizarre sky and the clear blue prairie before had completely disappeared, replaced by a wider natural world. It was a peaceful and tranquil paradise, full of dense jungles and running wild beasts. If you listen carefully, you can hear the whispers of the wind and the laughter of the water. 5 world trees hundreds of meters high stood in the middle, and under 4 of them were 4 different wilderness demigods. The slender and agile blue dragon hovered in the east, and the mighty and majestic white tiger lay in the west. In the south was the flaming red crane, and in the north was the golden black ox. Earth, fire, water, and wind. 4 different forces came from every corner of the entire spiritual world, accompanied by the 4 wilderness demigods approaching. In the end, it turned into a solid and huge bull cage. The beast, whose power had been consumed by the Black Panther goddess Bast, could not resist such an attack at all. Now 2 overlapping spiritual worlds were besieging it. It was the first time it enjoyed such a high-level treatment. It felt a little overwhelmed. It wanted to refuse, but it was impossible. It wanted to escape, but it was too late. Although the killing move was just used, it had been prepared for a long time, starting from the battle between the beast and the Black Panther goddess. Weaving such a huge cage, even the 4 wilderness demigods felt a little strenuous. Fortunately, Lao Wang's mental power was strong enough. In his spiritual world, there was almost no existence in the entire universe that could make him feel difficult. Just as he said, Xiaohao could seal the 7 evil spirits, and he could also seal the beast. And it was not too difficult. No, you can't kill me, I will come back. Part of my power will remain in your spiritual world forever, which will definitely drive you crazy. You will bear the sin that you can never get rid of. You will fall into the abyss of no return. Everything you do is in vain. In the end, you will definitely make me successful. I'm a condensation of negative emotions. I represent the original sin of the earth. My existence hides a secret that can make the entire universe tremble. I'm not just me. I have merged with that great existence. What do you mean by you? And what do you mean by me? Do you really think you are unique? You talk too much. The cage kept shrinking and eventually became as small as the cosmic cube. It's all over. The spiritual world separated again, feeling the negative emotions that had spread to the entire spiritual world. Lao Wang smiled slightly. This level of negative emotions is much weaker than the 7 evils back then, and is completely not on the same level. Just refine it slowly. It's your turn, Erica. Lao Wang pushed his left hand forward and pushed the cage into Erica's body. 2 updates today. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 435 The Dust Settles, Part 1. A shrill scream sounded from the silent cliff. Erica's whole body was twitching, as if an elephant was stuffed into her thin body, making her feel extremely bloated and painful, which was more uncomfortable than death. If the pain of childbirth is considered level 10, then this pain is now more than level 20, which is simply not something that ordinary humans can bear. Even elite soldiers who have received pain tolerance training cannot bear it. There are many women in the world who have endured the pain of childbirth. Some of them are willing to endure it a second time after enduring it once. It is probably because of practice that the pain will decrease. But if someone has experienced the pain that Erica is experiencing now, then she or he will not be willing to endure it a second time, and there will be no chance. If nothing unexpected happens, he will die on the spot. And it is not the death of the body, but the death of the spirit. The body of the deceased will not have any problems. There will be no functional damage, and all organs will remain intact, but his spirit will be torn in unimaginable pain, experiencing painful torture again and again, and finally broken and completely disappeared. The power of the beast is strange and powerful. It has long been integrated with human society and even the entire earth. It can never be eliminated. Although the 4 supreme gods have experience in fighting the 7 evils for a long time, the beast is not the 7 evils after all. Although their seals are targeted, they still cannot completely imprison the power of the beast. A very small part will inevitably leak out. It is really just a very small part, even less than 1,000th or 1/10,000th of the total power. But for Erica, who is just an ordinary person, it is a weight that life cannot bear. The volume of these negative emotions far exceeds her limit. This level of mental shock makes her crazy. Erica, wake up. Lao Wang stretched out his hand and pointed, and a spiritual force drilled into her mind. The peaceful and tranquil breath made her feel like she was back in the mother's body. The irritable emotions calmed down like a pacifier. The whole person fell into a state of unity between man and nature, wrapped in Lao Wang's gentle spiritual fabric, safe and comfortable. The twisted body returned to normal, and a gust of wind came out, taking away the cold sweat on every inch of skin. Even the red scratches slowly faded, and the skin was still healthy. Have a good rest. You are tired. Don't be afraid, Kit. Just take a nap, and it will be morning when you wake up. The power of the beast will be sealed in your body, and the spiritual will are left behind will also help you to constantly temper your spirit under the impact of negative emotions. You are Black Sky. You have the ability to withstand the full power of the beast. What you have to do now is to completely control this ability, so that you can become the master of power, not a slave. I look forward to the day when I fight side by side with you. Erica's potential is second only to the 5 great kings, and she will become stronger and stronger with the passage of time. Once her potential is fully stimulated, she will inevitably be a god-level existence on Earth. The beast at its peak has abused the Ghost Rider. Lao Wang opened the door again and sent Erica back to the Azeroth laboratory, handing it over to Dunhuang to take good care of it, so that he had time to pay attention to the situation around him. Those who should stand are still standing, but some people can't escape, even if they want to, and can't leave, even if they want to. They can only stay where they are. The super soldier serum robbed from their bodies can't save him. Those who should kneel still kneel, looking at the Black Panther goddess who appeared from the spiritual world. They maintain enough respect, because that is their belief, their god, their everything, and they must devote absolute loyalty. Even if the other party eats them, it is their honor, and there must be no fear or dissatisfaction. Those who should lie down are still lying down. Although the beast has been sealed, its residual power is still affecting these people. If it cannot be eliminated, these people will inevitably embark on the road of crime, and with their identities, they must be more terrifying than 1,000 murderers. It's time to wake up. Lao Wang's spirit swept through like a spring breeze, taking away all negative emotions. What's wrong with me? What a spring day. It feels like a dream. Why are there so many wounds on my body? Hiss, it hurts. Who beat me while I was sleeping and brought me here? Why are you all here? I seem to have done something wrong. The elders and royal guards who got up again looked at each other. I don't know who saw the Black Panther goddess first and exclaimed and knelt on the ground. Great goddess, you really appeared? Then there was a series of kneeling sounds. For anyone in Wakanda except Black Panther, the Black Panther goddess is just a belief. No one has seen her for hundreds of years. She has even become a symbol, a god with no entity and only symbolic meaning. Just like God who has never come to the world to respond to the prayers of believers. And now, the goddess they have always believed in actually appeared in front of them, which made them surprised and happy, and at the same time there was some indescribable panic. Have I done anything bad? Have I blasphemed the goddess? The goddess is omniscient and omnipotent. She must know the dirty things I have done. Will she forgive me? Will she punish me? Everyone is highly nervous, and they don't know what is waiting for them. Yigong likes dragons, and distance creates beauty. Because it is invisible and intangible, we believe in it, but when faith really comes to us, we will find out what the gap is between each other, which will make them more respectful of the gods, or get closer to the gods. Of course, Buster doesn't know what these people think, and he is not interested in caring. The kindness and sins of mortals have nothing to do with her. Only salted fish and sleeping are the eternal truth, and even becoming stronger has to stand behind. Everything is over. You can handle the next thing yourself. The old king waved his hand, and the Black Panther goddess split a part of her soul again, turning into a smaller Black Panther, and then shrunk again, only the size of an ordinary pet cat, and jumped onto the old king's shoulder. It was still embarrassing to be a mount for others in front of the people. Director Wang did not give her the opportunity to refuse before, but now it cannot be done. Buster, the Black Panther goddess, have to be shameless. What will happen next? The old king is not interested, but he can guess it. In any case, since the old king has announced his abdication, it is impossible for him to break his promise, and he himself has long wanted to step down. It is just the right opportunity to realize it. He does not have to care about so many messy state affairs. He may live a few more years in peace and quiet. Eric no longer has the power of the beast, but he still has the super soldier serum. According to the tradition of Wakanda, he has a power that does not belong to mortals and cannot be challenged. Of course, he will definitely make a strong request and propose to allow T'Challa to retain the power of the Black Panther to ensure fairness in public, whether for the sake of face or because of his confidence in himself. T'Challa will definitely agree. T'Challa himself is quite capable, but compared to Eric, who is a member of the Navy SEALs and has killed countless people, he is still slightly inferior, not to mention that the super soldier serum Nightblade is no worse than the heart-shaped grass. But it doesn't matter. Buster was almost tricked by the beast and definitely doesn't like Eric, who used to be a container. This challenge was unfair from the beginning. If nothing unexpected happens, she will respect the traditions of Wakanda, but will definitely give T'Challa more favor, such as granting him some power and making him a voter. With Buster's support, Eric will definitely lose. He made the royal family, the council of elders, and the royal guard look bad and almost overthrew the entire country. It is clear what is waiting for him. T'Challa will definitely become the new king of Wakanda. But all this has nothing to do with the old king. There are so many messy pretenders on the earth, and he will find them one by one. Those who are not important will naturally be left to Ghost Rider and Daredevil to deal with. But there are a few terrifying beasts among them, so you have to do it yourself. Chapter 436 Undercover Agents from All Over the World Unite, Part 2. For pretenders all over the world, it has not been easy recently. They are able to successfully disguise themselves under the close surveillance of Kamataj in the 3 holy temples, and lurk in the human world. Each of them is an expert in this field, and some have even been lurking on Earth for hundreds or thousands of years. They have witnessed the rise and fall of families and the replacement of kingdoms, married and had children as humans, day after day, year after year, and have long regarded themselves as humans, almost forgetting their original identities. All along, those more active pretenders have been discovered and captured by the magic dogs of Kamataj in the 3 holy temples, which made them understand one thing: if you want to successfully lurk on Earth, it doesn't matter how strong your ability is, or how flexible your brain is. What matters is to be able to dive, and not bubble up. As long as you don't bubble up, and don't make any noise, it's okay even if you are discovered. After all, behind them stand one after another famous existences in the multiverse. Some are the lords of the various hells, some are the masters of extra dimensions, and some are the leaders of powerful forces in this universe. Even the supreme sorcerer Ancient One dare not provoke them. They have always thought so. The rules of this game are like this. It is said that it was set by the first generation of Supreme Sorcerer Agamotto at that time, and it has been played for thousands of years. It is said that the reason for playing like this is that the Earth is a very special place. The people here are very smart, and the civilization here develops very fast. Superheroes who are out of touch with the masses and black technologies beyond the level of civilization often appear here. There is a big secret hidden here, so the big guys behind them will turn their attention here. Of course, as subordinates, they definitely don't know what the secret is. They can only continue to lurk and wait silently according to the boss's intention. The reason why the supreme sorcerers of all generations did not clean them up is because the secret hidden in the Earth is too terrible. Even a powerful supreme sorcerer cannot occupy it alone, and can only allow other big guys to share it. But now, someone has broken the rules of the game. This is too much. We are not big shots, we just make a living, and everyone lives in peace. You disguise yours, I'll lurk mine, and the well water does not interfere with the river water, and Lee KUI does not hit Lee GUI. How good is it? Now, someone actually wants to overturn the table, smash all our ice bowls, and even wants to smash the pot. That's too much. How can we tolerate it? No, absolutely not. Especially seeing other pretenders being pulled out one by one and then killed. The remaining pretenders who are still alive have a bad feeling. It's not killing the chicken to scare the monkey. This is to kill both the chicken and the monkey. The situation is urgent. They immediately contacted the big boss behind them, and then received the same order: retreat. Retreat? We have been lurking for so long, and we have already figured out the situation on Earth. Every day, we get travel expenses and food expenses that are higher than our wages. We are much better off than brothers in other places. Now we have to retreat. The undercovers are unwilling, but since it is the order of the big bosses, they have to listen. Then they soon found out. Retreat. It is definitely impossible to retreat. The entire Earth is covered by a thick mental fog, cutting off their regular contact with the big boss behind the scenes. Although some covert methods, such as special rituals and special items, can break through the mental fog, they are easily discovered by the troublemaker, and then like the first bird to stick out, they are the first to be killed. Time passed day by day. A week later, they sadly discovered that no pretender could successfully retreat from the Earth. Everyone knew what was waiting for them: death. Is this the destined ending of undercover agents, just like what is described in movies and TV series? At this time, a guy found them. An abandoned cemetery in the western United States. It was 12 o'clock in the middle of the night, and the heavy dark clouds covered the entire sky. There were no stars or moons, and the whole world was dark. In this darkness, a little green light suddenly lit up. It was a green light like a ghost fire, gloomy and terrifying, exuding a breath like hell. Being in it, it was like coming to a dark world without a trace of warmth. The desolate cemetery welcomed the first guest. This was a demon disguised as a human. On the surface, it looked no different from a normal person, but in fact it came from another world, a world called Hell. He is a visitor from Hell. In the hell where he lives, he is just a big devil with no status. But when he came to Earth, He gained a lot of wealth and high status through playing tricks, got used to the life of the upper class, and even got the title of Earl in a certain European country, got a large piece of fiefdom, more than one castle, and several listed companies, so he got used to being called the Earl of Hell by others. The Earl of Hell looked around and suddenly felt a force that did not belong to the world of life. The soil of the cemetery kept loosening, and hands that were rotten to the point of only white bones broke out of the ground, and one skeleton after another crawled out. He looked far away and soon saw a guy wrapped in grey mist. He thought to himself, "Are you from Helheim, a subordinate of the goddess of death Hela?" The man slowly walked out of the darkness, surrounded by a large number of undead. He lifted his grey hood, revealing a pale and beautiful female face, a great demon under the Lord of Hell Mephisto. "Please call me Count of Hell." Count of Hell bowed very gentlemanly, with a perfect smile on his face. "Excuse me, who are you?" He could feel that the other person's strength was no less than his own. The other person's status must be not low, even in Helheim, he must be ranked high. "Valkyrie," the man said. "Valkyrie, Valkyrie." The Count of Hell was slightly startled, then he chuckled and shook his head. "Odin built Valhalla and trained the best Valkyries, the Valkyries. In order to seal Hela, Odin sent all the Valkyries to fight, but they all died in the end. I didn't expect that the Valkyries killed by Hela had been controlled by her and became her subordinates." Valkyries remained silent. At this time, someone else walked over from the darkness. The Count of Hell and Valkyries looked over at the same time, secretly raising their vigilance. The other person looked very ordinary, but he had the breath of life and death at the same time. His face was pale, his clothes were simple and elegant, and he was holding a civilized staff that did not belong to this era in his hand, as if he had come back to life from ancient times. "Could it be Dracula?" the man said. "It turns out to be the Honorable Count Dracula, the most powerful vampire on Earth." The Count of Hell tried to show enough kindness, but was careful to keep a sufficient distance from the other party. "We are both counts, so it's a good opportunity for us to get close to each other." Count Dracula nodded slightly, glanced at Valkyrie, and said nothing. The atmosphere was a little silent. Soon more people came over. All of them were famous big names in the dark world. There were long-lurking frost giants, demons disguised as humans, traitorous Asgardians, and wind demons, fire demons, water demons, and earth demons that were usually unknown lurking in some corner. Some of them were thought to have died long ago, but they were unexpectedly still alive. Half an hour later, nearly 20 people gathered in the abandoned cemetery. Most of them came from other worlds, and only a few were native earthlings, although they were no longer human. "It looks like everyone is here." The Count of Hell looked at them one by one and smiled. "I wonder which one of you was able to find all of us. It's not easy." After a silence of more than 10 seconds, Dracula said, "It's not me." Valkyrie did not answer, but her silence itself was an answer. Others also spoke up. Soon everyone expressed their opinions. The Count of Hell frowned. It wasn't any of them. "So who was it?" "It was me." Ripples suddenly appeared in the space, and a tall and thin man walked out. Chapter 437, The Bright Era of the Dark World, Part 1. This is a tall and thin man, wearing a dark red and black robe. He has no weapons in his hands, but the whole space is his weapon. Wherever he goes, the space there becomes abnormal. If Miss Jane Foster came here with a detector, she would definitely find that the readings are abnormal and fluctuate constantly, as if the space here has always been unstable. This man has a pair of small eyes, but the eye sockets are dyed black. Some energy that originally did not belong to him has penetrated into his body in some unknown way. The weak human body cannot withstand so much dark energy, so it condenses in some parts, like blood clots. Some of it condenses near the eyes and turns into dark circles, just like practicing immortality for 7 days and 7 nights in a row. Energy of the dark dimension. Earl of Hell flickered in his eyes, thinking, and a name appeared in his mind. "You are a believer of Dormammu, a traitor of Kamataj, a student of the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One, one of the few masters of secret magic fanatical Cassilis." He understood. No wonder he was able to find all the leaders of so many dark forces and gather them here. Others don't have this ability, but Caecilius, as the master of the secrets of Kamataj, is naturally different. The wizards of Kamataj and the 3 holy temples have been monitoring all the magical forces on the entire earth, including them. As one of the few masters of the secrets, Caecilius has a very high status in Kamataj and the 3 holy temples. He must have been in contact with related positions, and was responsible for monitoring magical anomalies in certain areas for a period of time. He must have read a lot of monitoring data and found them. What exactly did he want to do by summoning these people? Question mark? Does he want to overthrow the rule of the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One with such a force? To be a master of the secrets, the IQ is naturally not too low. No one would offend the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One, otherwise only death is waiting for them, and it is the kind that will never be reborn, and there is no chance to return to their own dimension and be reborn. Speak quickly if you have something to say. Count Dracula's voice was low and cold. He was sleeping deep underground in an ancient castle in Europe. He was suddenly awakened and saw a line of words in front of the coffin, asking him to meet here. If the other party had not been able to break through the magic defense of the castle itself, making him feel the threat of death, and have to take it seriously, he would not have ended his hundreds of years of sleep, climbed out of the coffin, and waded into this muddy water. Valkyrie stared at Caecilius with a pair of cold eyes, and raised the black sword in her hand. If this person did not give her a satisfactory answer, then she would not mind solving the other party, and celebrating this bad day with the death of a life. It's very simple. We are all facing the same threat, the Godstick Bureau. Caecilius was not afraid at all. Over the past few years, he has held several dark rituals in succession, and obtained more dark dimension energy. He is confident that no one in the entire Kamataj is his opponent except the Ancient One, and he has the strength to fight even against the Ancient One. If he was not completely sure, and had received a revelation from Master Dormammu, he would not have specially found these shameful rats hiding in the dark. Immortal Iron Fist, Ghost Rider, Daredevil, Black Sky, Stick Old Man. Names came out of Caecilius' mouth one by one, and the air seemed to begin to stagnate. He read out more than a dozen names, and then looked around. I think everyone has had a hard time recently. Although you are all still alive, many of your men have died, right? No one answered. Not answering means tacit agreement. Each of them is the leader of a faction, and has a large number of dark members under him. For example, Count Dracula has thousands of vampires under his command, and even more vampire servants. Although he has been sleeping all the time, the upper blood clan has absolute dominance over the lower ones. If he needs, he can order his men to do anything at any time, even to die. Recently, their lives have indeed not been easy, whether it is the demons lurking on the earth, the vampires transformed from humans, or the magical entities that originally existed in this world and were naturally formed by spiritual power and magic power. Many of them have been eliminated by the Bureau of Divine Sticks. They can't even organize an effective resistance. Because whether it is the Ghost Rider, Black Sky Erica, or Daredevil, they are much stronger than their men. So strong that, even if they take action themselves, they are not sure of defeating the other party. To the earth, they are always outsiders. There are many inconveniences in playing away games, and they knew the result from the beginning. I think everyone knows the relationship between the Bureau of Divine Stupidity and Kamataj. Seeing that no one else wanted to speak, Earl of Hell said, according to reliable information, Director Wang has always had a good relationship with the Supreme Sorcerer. If we deal with the Bureau of Divine Stupidity, will Kamataj take action? Will the Supreme Sorcerer take action? If even she takes action, I think everyone knows what it means. Valkyrie frowned, and the faces of others were not good either. No one wanted to provoke the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One. Everyone kept to themselves, and as long as they didn't cause trouble, they would only monitor. Once they killed people, or did something else, the consequences would definitely not be too good, and death would probably be the lightest. Your information is out of date, Earl of Hell. Caecilius sneered. I can tell you clearly, Ancient One was seriously injured, and she would never take action, unless she wanted to die. Ancient One was injured? Valkyrie thought for a while. This is good news. Odin won't live long, and neither will the Ancient One. No one in the 9 realms can maintain the seal of the underworld. Master Hela will soon be able to break the seal, and become the master of the 9 realms. and I, who have been lurking on Earth since ancient times, finally have the opportunity to follow my master. That is the glory of the dead. The Count of Hell is more concerned about the news itself. In other words, we don't have to worry about the Ancient One. Without the pressure of the Ancient One, those scum in Kamataj and the 3 holy temples are nothing. I can destroy them myself. One of them, the light era of the dark world, is finally coming. Others have similar ideas and are ready to move. Seeing the reactions of these people, Caecilius despised them and was also satisfied. I know you won't attack Kamataj and the 3 holy temples, although those places are now more empty than ever before. Caecilius' words made the Count of Hell snort silently. Once the 3 holy temples are destroyed, Dormammu will come at the first time and devour the entire earth. By then, we will all die, and our 1000-year plot will be destroyed. Even if we are lucky enough to escape, the Master will not forgive us, and of course he will not do such a thing. So my suggestion is that we join forces to eliminate the Godstick Bureau, Caecilius said, so that the whole world knows who is the real master of the earth. Creepy laughter continued to ring, and pairs of eyes showed a light of teasing, cruelty or playing. Before Agamotto and Odin appeared, the earth had always been a playground for the ancient gods and the lords of hell. Later, a group of people were killed by Odin's gang, and then it slowly became silent. With the aging of Odin and the departure of Agamotto, the Dark World came again, and this is the Middle Ages known as the Dark Ages. At the end of the Middle Ages, the Ancient One rose. After a bloody killing, accompanied by the successive fall of the sub-father level existence, the Middle Ages ended, the West ushered in the Renaissance, and the darkness retreated again. But because of the agreements and tacit understandings between many bigwigs, there are still many dark creatures lurking on the earth. When S.H.I.E.L.D. appeared more than 60 years ago, it had to keep a sufficient distance from the dark creatures. After all, S.H.I.E.L.D. was too weak, and was no match for the Dark World. Until the S.H.I.E.L.D. appeared. It really changed. In such a short time, the dark creatures died in batches, and the number was directly reduced by 20%. This killing speed is almost comparable to the era of Agamotto and the Ancient One. If this continues, the Dark World may really disappear completely on the earth. It's time to fight back. What do you want to do? The Earl of Hell asked. This is what others want to know. The whole cemetery was dead silent. Everyone was looking at Caecilius, waiting for his answer. Caecilius finally showed a satisfied smile on his face. He raised his hands, and the energy of the dark dimension gushed out. Under the effect of the spell, it turned into dark runes, and finally formed an ancient and powerful ritual array. First, we need to conclude an unbreakable oath. Those who break the oath will be tortured by eternal souls. Chapter 438 Whose Trap? Part 2. Unbreakable Oath, a kind of ancient magic. Once such an oath is signed, it must be obeyed. Otherwise, the magic power engraved in the body will kill the oathbreaker directly, and it is a double death of the soul and the body, and there will be no reincarnation forever. This oath must specify one or more magic entities, to guide the power of the magic entities into the body of the signatory. The stronger the designated magic entities and the greater the number, the stronger the power of the oath. As long as those magic entities are still alive, as long as the power of the signatory is not stronger than the sum of all magic entities, it cannot be broken. Although it is not really unbreakable, there is still a possibility of breaking it, but this possibility is too small, infinitely close to zero. Every dark creature present is at the level of a supervillain, and even among all supervillains, they are definitely not weak, but at the level of superiors. Some of them have even reached the level of Earth God. In order to conclude an oath that even they cannot break, the designated magic entity must be at least at the level of a sub-father, and considering that some people have sub-fathers or even fathers behind them, the designated magic entity cannot be just one. The power of the dark dimension flowed on the ground, and thousands of dark runes formed a huge magic ritual. Nearly 20 leaders of the dark world all stood at the designated positions in the magic ritual, and then used their bodies and souls as intermediaries to guide even more incredible power. In the name of Hela, the goddess of death. In the name of Mephisto, the lord of hell. In the name of Jotunheim. In the name of Surtur, the king of the fire giants. In the name of Malekith, the king of the dark elves. In Either a low or sharp voice sounded, and a stream of magic power from outside the earth was injected into the magic ritual through energy channels that even the defense systems of the 3 major temples could not isolate. Afterwards, nearly 20 sub-father and father level magic powers were mixed, divided into nearly 20 parts, and flowed into the bodies of each signatory. This is an unbreakable oath. Anyone who violates the oath will be killed by the magic power in his body, and the existence behind any of them cannot fight against the sum of the other existences. Unless all 6 infinity stones are collected, there will be no power in this universe that can break the oath, because that must be a power at the level of a single universe, and it is unlikely that a second one will be born in this universe. Very good. After the oath was reached, Caecilius finally breathed a sigh of relief and said, "It's not safe here. Although I have temporarily isolated everyone's prying with dark magic, the magic ritual will definitely attract the attention of the 3 major temples. We must change places." "Where?" Count Hel asked. "As long as the Ancient One wants, no place on Earth can be isolated from her prying, unless it is not on Earth." Caecilius raised his hand to cast a spell. The space folded in an incredible way, changing into geometric shapes beyond the imagination of ordinary people, and finally restored calm, and turned into a mirror. There is another world in the mirror. Mirror space? Count Dracula, who is good at magic, recognized this signature spell of Kamataj, and walked in silently. If it were before, he would never enter the mirror space of any wizard. He was not good at space magic. Once he entered it, it was equivalent to handing his life to the other party. Without the other party's permission, it was impossible to get out. But they had just concluded an unbreakable oath. Before killing Director Wang and destroying the Schengen Bureau, no one was allowed to attack anyone else, so there was no need to worry. Half a minute later, everyone disappeared. The cemetery returned to its former silence. At this moment, a slightly fat figure quietly appeared. He let go of his mind and carefully sensed it, frowning slightly. It disappeared so cleanly, without even a trace of space magic left. Is this the power of the dark dimension? It's amazing. Recalling the relevant knowledge about the space gem in his mind, Lao Wang reached out to the void. There was no movement. Lao Wang raised his eyebrows and realized that something was wrong. The Heart of Azeroth analyzed and upgraded the functions of the cosmic cube and the suspension ring, integrating the two. Although it cannot create a mirror space, it can allow the wearer to sense any spatial anomalies and open a portal to the other dimensional space. It stands to reason that the mirror space can be found, but it hasn't. The spatial anomalies here may have been completely erased, or perhaps the magic or energy that creates the mirror space is of a higher level than the cosmic cube. Just now, he tried to open the macro portal, take the space gem left in the Azeroth laboratory, and use the power of the space gem to break the mirror space, but it was useless. He couldn't even open the portal. Although Caecilius's dark magic is stronger than all the masters of Kamataj, it is not superior to the cosmic cube, unless Lao Wang carefully sensed and found that the space here was unexpectedly stable beyond imagination. The entire cemetery was wrapped in a kind of time and space force, forming an isolated island of time and space. He tried to use his mental power to cross the time and space barrier, but he couldn't do it at all. The power of the dark dimension gushed out from another dimension and soon filled the entire cemetery. The next moment, the entire cemetery began to twist, fold, and split in incredible ways. This is no longer the original cemetery, but a mirror space. A mirror space created by Caecilius and other fanatics. No, that's not right. Those fanatics can't do this at all. This is a trap specially prepared for him, and the initiator of the trap can only be the one behind Caecilius, Dormammu. Ancient One is right. I have attracted Dormammu's attention. What he wants is not me, but my Heart of Azeroth, and of course the Space Stone and the Mind Stone. If Dormammu is not eliminated, the Earth will never have peace. Lao Wang sighed, feeling that the burden on his shoulders was so heavy, heavier than the 2 hemispheres combined, and he didn't know if he could carry it. Director Wang, long time no see. A translucent portal appeared, and Caecilius walked out. Nearly 30 fanatics followed him, some of whom Lao Wang had even seen in Kamataj and the New York Temple. Most of them were mystic apprentices, but there were also 7 or 8 mystics, whose strength should not be underestimated. Only 4 years, not too long. Lao Wang had a faint smile on his face. He looked around, his eyes lingered on a few of them, and then said, "Since you are here, come out. You are worthy of being the immortal Iron Fist, second only to Wu Fengji in Kunlun's history." Director Wang of the Schengen Bureau. As soon as Caecilius finished speaking, the space bunkers disappeared one by one. Thousands of dark creatures filled the entire mirror space. There were demons, vampires, undead creatures such as zombies, skeletons, and ghosts, visitors from other planets, and of course magical entities native to the Earth, such as wind demons, fire demons, earth demons, and water demons. Most of them were super soldiers, and there were absolutely no weaklings who could come here. The entire Earth was hiding at least hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dark creatures, and more than 90% of the elite gathered here, all to deal with him. Lao Wang thought about it for a while, and found that some of them could be understood, but some of them could not be understood. He has been a diligent and studious student for 3 lifetimes. Of course, he would humbly ask for advice if he didn't understand something. "There is one thing I have been unable to figure out. Can any one of you help me solve it? Then I'll make you understand until you die." Caecilius probably thought he had definitely won, and for a moment he was too proud of himself, and couldn't help saying, "Don't you know how we gathered so many people in such a short time? I tell you, actually, no, I know this." Lao Wang waved his hand to interrupt. "You have so many mages, you just need to gather people to a few places in advance, and then open the portal. 1 minute is enough. If it were me, about 5 seconds would be enough. Your abilities are too poor, and your speed is not fast enough. I almost forgot, you can also teleport." Caecilius was not angry, and continued to guess. "Don't you understand how we worked out a way to deal with you in such a short time? You must be thinking, it's only 1 minute. Even if each person says 1 sentence, we can't finish talking." "I know this too," the old king patiently explained. "The dark dimension has no concept of time and space. This trap was actually set up by Dormammu himself. His power is everywhere here. It is equivalent to a transfer station between the physical universe and the dark dimension. The space here is disordered, and the time is also disordered. Although only 1 minute has passed outside, you may have discussed it for a day." "Then what don't you understand?" Caecilius frowned. He really couldn't think of any other possibilities. "What I don't understand is..." The old king sighed and raised his hands. "Why are you so kind to gather so many dark creatures together, and then come here to die?" As soon as the voice fell, everything around changed again. The distorted space disappeared, and the disordered time disappeared. There was no deserted cemetery, and no endless darkness. It was no longer the original mirror space, but another larger and more incredible world. A black panther walked in gracefully, and next to it was the white tiger Zunu, who strode with his head held high. Then there were azure dragon, red crane, and black ox. Then there were hundreds of black panthers. 4 old kings appeared at the same time. Chapter 439. 7 Heavenly Fathers, Part 1. Having read so many online novels in his previous life, and written so many, Lao Wang is very familiar with the routines. The protagonist is better than talking too much, and the villain dies because of talking too much. Is Lao Wang the protagonist? Although most time travelers are protagonists, there are still many cases of being beaten by the son of the plane in so many novels. And to be honest, it is not so easy for time travelers to survive. Lao Wang thinks that there must be many who die before they succeed in traveling through time, and it is highly likely that they will not survive much. The golden finger is not omnipotent, and it all comes down to one's own ability. Since he is not sure whether he is the protagonist, Lao Wang certainly will not talk too much. He is not Peter, the good neighbor in the neighborhood, nor is he Peter who dances awkwardly. There is only one reason why he wasted so much time with Caecilius and others: to buy time for his own killer move. Taking advantage of that time, he overlapped the spiritual world of the panther goddess Bast, and then pulled the souls of all creatures here into it. The away game immediately became a home game, and the personnel ratio between the enemy and us also changed from 1000:1 to almost 2:1. Quote. As for the comparison of comprehensive strength, Caecilius, I think it's better for you to surrender. Lao Wang once wanted to be a druid because he liked to win people over with virtue and defeat them without fighting. While speaking, he constantly connected with the outside world and nature through the world tree that could penetrate the barriers of time and space, preparing the second trump card. You knew it was a trap? Looking at the hundreds of Black Panthers approaching, Cassilis was not panicked, but asked calmly, Buster's spiritual world is connected to Wakanda. Her body has been monitored by us. What appeared here is just a cut soul. These Black Panthers have been in Wakanda. It is impossible for them to follow a split soul. You have prepared for it? Very smart. But you guessed wrong. Lao Wang has always been kind and helpful. Since the other party is confused, he will definitely try his best to answer and buy time for his second trump card. But I know you will definitely set a trap, so I didn't even bring the space stone and the mind stone. I couldn't bear to take out a loan to buy a house. Otherwise, how could you come? Cassilis' eyes shrank suddenly. If he hadn't been sure that the two gems, especially the space stone, had been in the Azeroth laboratory, he would not have set up this plan, because it would be doomed to fail. In this universe, no one spatial ability is superior to the space stone, and Dormammu is the same. He had discovered long ago that Director Wang probably relied on his strong strength and didn't have the habit of bringing the Infinity Stones, but left them to scientists for experiments. Unfortunately, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver have been in the laboratory. The Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One and the three major temples must have paid special attention to it. There seems to be a large number of magic and high-tech weapons to protect it. The risk is too great, otherwise he would have attacked the Azeroth laboratory long ago. As long as he grabs the two gems, many of the forbidden spells he saw in the forbidden library of Kamataj can be used, and his strength will be raised to a whole new level, even surpassing the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One. It is not completely hopeless, at least there is 0.01%. The surname Wang was actually prepared, which made him feel a little fear for no reason. Will there be other changes? However, when he thought that this was a killing game set up by Master Dormammu himself, and the real killing move should be ready, he had full confidence. And now what he has to do is to buy more time for the Master. According to his plan, when everything is ready, he will take the initiative to reveal the news and lead Director Wang over. Unexpectedly, Director Wang came so quickly, leaving him with little time to prepare. But it doesn't matter. He had already thought of all possibilities and considered this situation. The reason why so many dark creatures were summoned and the unbreakable oath was made with them was for now. Everyone, stop talking nonsense with him. Let's get started. Cassilis said as he quickly retreated. Kill them. Destroy the Black Panther. Destroy these souls. Let the darkness come again. Let us become the masters of the earth again. Nearly 20 leaders of the dark world gave orders and retreated quickly. Thousands of dark creatures launched an attack like a tide. Because they were all in the state of souls, their physical strength and abilities could not be used at all. The only thing they could do was to use the power of their souls to attack. These dark creatures, who have lived for at least hundreds or even thousands of years, each have extremely powerful souls and spiritual powers born from their souls. In their long lives, they have learned many skills of mental attack. In this desperate battle, when it is either you or I, no one will hide and use them all. One by one, the vampire souls turned into bats and flew into the sky, and the best among them even split into a group of vampire bats. They are all direct descendants of Count Dracula. The worst is the Baron level, and now there are about 10 Viscounts and Earls. Vampires have their own way of dividing their power, which corresponds to the title. The highest level is naturally the Vampire Ancestor, followed by the Prince, Lord, Elder, and then the 5-level title, Duke, Marquis, Earl, Viscount, and Baron. Although Count Dracula is called Count, it is just a title, and does not represent his true strength. He has lived from the 15th century to the present, and has experienced 500 years. During this period, he has had opportunities again and again, constantly improving his strength and title. He actually has the qualifications to compete for the Vampire King, and he has indeed done so. However, many years of sleep have caused him to be excluded by the mainstream of vampires, and his offspring are scarce. All those with good strength are here, almost out of the nest. Transforming into a bat is a unique way of attack for vampires. Vampires will not die unless the bats die or die out completely. Vampires have extremely strong physiques. As long as they are not dead, they can continue to regenerate. As long as they have enough blood, no matter how many injuries they suffer, they can recover in a very short time. But this is the spiritual world, and they are all in the state of soul. The ability to regenerate and heal has disappeared, and compared with the Black Panthers following Buster, their souls are so weak that they can't resist the attack of claws at all. Originally, the biggest advantage was flying. But this is the spiritual world, and here, Lao Wang and Buster have the final say. I say, the soul is allowed to fly. As Lao Wang's low and magnetic voice sounded, the rules of the spiritual world changed. His attainments in the spiritual world are not high enough, and he can only make very small changes. He can't directly determine the outcome, but it is enough to affect the situation. Losing the biggest advantage, facing the faster, taller, and stronger Black Panthers, the vampires seem to have encountered natural enemies, and they continue to lose troops. In comparison, the demons under the Earl of Hell and the undead creatures under the Valkyrie are stronger. Demons are known for their powerful souls, and most of them are proficient in dark magic, which makes them more suitable for mental warfare. Ordinary undead have no souls, such as zombies and skeletons. But those powerful enough ghosts are the condensation of soul and death energy, which are also suitable for mental warfare. Demons have extremely long lifespans, and undead creatures are even more famous for their immortality. The demons and undead creatures who are qualified to come here are naturally the best. Most of them have lived for thousands of years, and some have even lived for thousands of years. Their souls are constantly growing, their mental strength is constantly increasing, and most of them are stronger than the Black Panther. The comprehensive strength comparison between the two sides is not as obvious as imagined, and the difference is roughly the same. The war soon fell into a stalemate, but none of the leaders of both sides moved. Lao Wang used most of his spirit to get in touch with nature, so he naturally would not take the initiative to attack, but that does not mean he is afraid of attacking. If the enemy does not move, I will not move. If the enemy moves, I will fight you every time I move, and see if you dare to move. And he can almost be sure those cowards on the opposite side will not move either. Count Dracula was a wise old man who had been hiding far away, and didn't want to participate in the war. Although he had to wade into this muddy water, he had no background, and planned to preserve his strength as much as possible from the beginning, to deal with the possible emergencies that might occur next. The black cloak opened, like the wings of a bat, and brought him into the air. Count Dracula looked down at the entire battlefield, and his eyes quickly focused on the dark creature leaders with deep backgrounds. Count Hell, Valkyrie, these powerful leaders, all have father-level existences standing behind them, and they are well-known figures even in the multiverse. And now, from them, Count Dracula felt the kind of godlike power that was above the mortal world. As one of the most powerful vampires in the entire dark world, Count Dracula was confident that his strength alone was definitely not inferior to Count Hell and Valkyrie. Whether it was a frontal battle or a sneak attack, he had the confidence to destroy the opponent by himself. But now, the power of the opponent made him feel palpitations, and even a feeling of wanting to worship. As agreed before, these dark leaders communicated with the existence behind them through one ritual after another that had been prepared long ago, guiding the projections of those existences to break through the barriers of time and space, the boundaries between the spiritual world and the material world, and come to this world. It was as if the will of God had descended, and there was more than one. In just a moment, the entire spiritual world began to become unstable, which was the result of a higher level spiritual battle. In the sky, projections appeared one after another. These famous bosses in the multiverse rarely showed their true faces, so even if they had lived for hundreds of years and knew many secrets that ordinary people didn't know, Count Dracula could only recognize a few of the more than 10 projections. In the sky directly in front of him was a dark red figure wearing a cloak. The upper body of the demon was exposed, with strong muscles, and every inch of skin was synonymous with strength. Energy similar to the dark dimension continued to vent from his body. Even if only a small spiritual projection descended, it was still many times more powerful than the most powerful existence Count Dracula had ever seen. He is the ruler of one of the many hells, Mephisto, the lord of hell, known for his insidiousness and cunning. The appearance of Ghost Rider is related to him. Such a powerful existence, even if it just appears, is enough to terrify people. Their worlds completely collapse, and they can't muster the courage to fight him at all. The pressure of the superior is almost impossible for the inferior to resist. The strength of the flesh requires skin-to-skin contact and fist-to-fist confrontation to be reflected. But the strength of the soul is that, just by looking at you more in the crowd, you can never forget your face and dream of never seeing you again. And now, Count Dracula sees the gap between them. The soul that has lived for 500 years still looks weak in front of Mephisto's insignificant spiritual projection. The existence of the father level only shows a little bit of power. Who can resist it? And there is more than one such existence. The projection of Goddess of Death Hela appeared on the other side, facing Mephisto from a distance. As a father level existence, Hela is slightly weaker than Mephisto. They once lost in a fight, and the two don't get along well. Although she was sealed by Odin, because she belongs to the same universe as the Earth, and there is a connection between the 9 realms by the World Tree, the power that can descend here is larger in proportion, and the strength shown is stronger than Mephisto. On the other side is a ball of fire, and in the flame is Surtur, the king of fire giants from another world and the 9 realms. Because in many young fights, Odin took away the eternal fire, so his strength was reduced to the sub-father level, but his ancient soul is still strong, and the combination of spiritual projection and the original flame of Muspelheim is enough to occupy a place among these father level projections. In addition to them, there are several other spiritual projections of similar levels. Count Dracula sighed and mourned for Director Wang and the entire spiritual world. Any of these existences has a strength similar to that of the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One, and can kill himself 10,000 times. How can Director Wang, who is just a mortal, resist? Everything is coming to an end. Count Dracula muttered to himself. If the complete soul of the Panther Goddess Buster was here, maybe she could barely stop one of them. But now there is only a small part of her soul. And the 4 powerful beast souls that are similar to her, combined, may be able to barely stop one of them. For Directors Wang, no, including the original one, 5 Directors Wang together can barely stop one. Of course, this is just his guess. Maybe they are not qualified. But there are 7 here. This is an absolutely irreparable power gap. The strength of the two sides is simply a world of difference. Being targeted by 7 father level beings at the same time. Although Director Wang will die, he should feel relieved, right? Count Dracula found himself a little envious. Some people are better off alive even if they die. Perhaps these beings who know that the Ancient One is about to die will soon break through the defense system of the 3 major temples, causing the Earth to re-enter the Dark Age, or even destroy and divide the Earth. Count Dracula felt that he saw the fate of the Earth. As a vampire born and raised on Earth, he will also face a tragic end along with the Earth. At this moment, Count Dracula saw a ray of light. A ray of green light falling from the sky. Chapter 440. Feel the power of nature. Second update. If love is a green light, then this green light is the love of nature for Lao Wang. This kind of love is so blazing and pure that it is so green that it makes people panic. It makes the enemy panic. When the light appeared for the first time, all the projections looked up, as if they had caught an adulterer in bed, and saw the truth of the world. Strange, this light alone can't deal with us. What is his killer move? Mephisto, who likes to think, whispered to himself. Looking at the green light, Count Dracula didn't know why he suddenly thought of his wife, and of course, the wives of other people who were related to him. This thought flashed through his mind, and he quickly shook his head and shook it off, looking up and focusing on the green light itself. He felt that the shock of his life would be used up today, in these few short minutes. He suspected that, no matter what happened in the rest of his life, what he saw and heard, even if the Earth was destroyed, the universe exploded, and even if all the women left him, he would never be surprised again. Nothing is more shocking than everything in front of him, and it is a shock from the inside out. The spiritual projections of the 7 heavenly fathers and the projections of the 12 sub-heavenly fathers shock the souls at the soul level, making everyone, including him, frozen in place. No matter if they were dark creatures or black panthers, they could not move at all, and naturally they could not attack. It was as if the pause button was pressed, and the entire space was controlled by those beings, and the secular war also stopped. And now, the green light cut through the sky, the spiritual world, and the mirror space, reflecting in everyone's heart. The solid seal broke a crack, and a ray of light shot into the pure darkness. The aura of the Heavenly Father and the Sub-Heavenly Father was disturbed, and Count Dracula felt a sense of relief, as if a big stone pressing on him was removed, which was very refreshing. Is that the power of nature itself? Vampires are a combination of life and death, with both forms, and have a deep understanding of both. Nature is also a combination of life and death. Trees wither and flourish, life and death, reincarnation. Everything is contained in that green light. It is the light of life that brings endless vitality, but also the light of death that brings decay and misfortune. This light did not hit any of the spiritual projections, but in the blink of an eye, it sank into the towering tree in the center of the spiritual world. The next moment, a large amount of natural breath emanated from the giant tree, spreading rapidly along the air and the earth. Bathed in it, all the plants began to grow wildly. 4 green lights appeared in the sky again, and fell on the other 4 giant trees. With the 5 giant trees as the center, all the plants in the entire spiritual world were rejuvenated with unprecedented vitality. The wind blew. The wind blew across Count Dracula's cheek, warm and moist. Each wisp of wind was very light and small, soft and weak. But when thousands and tens of thousands of winds gathered together, it was like thousands and tens of thousands of hairs twisted into a strand, harder than iron wire. These winds came from every corner of the spiritual world, and in a very short time, they gathered into a strong wind that he had never seen in his life. The wind was howling, the sky was covered with dark clouds, thunder and lightning roared, and raindrops fell from the sky, dripping on Count Dracula's face. It was a little cold and more moist, like a woman's tears. 1 drop of rain is nothing, and 100 million drops of rain are nothing. But these raindrops contain spiritual power and natural energy. Such a tiny power is nothing to ordinary people, but what if there are enough? The light rain becomes a light rain, the light rain becomes a moderate rain, and the moderate rain merges into a heavy rain. The heavy rain poured down, and in the howling wind, it turned into a raging flood, traveling across the sky. The originally quiet and peaceful spiritual world suddenly became solemn and terrifying. This is the power of the entire spiritual world. No, this is not just the power of the spiritual world. This is a fusion of the power of the 2 worlds. It is a counterattack of nature. Even Count Dracula could see what was going on, and the spiritual projection in the sky was no exception. The gift of nature, the erosion of the world, the pan-consciousness of endless life. So that's what it is. Mephisto's reaction was very calm. Although such an attack was somewhat strange, it was nothing to his original body, unless that person could mobilize the natural forces of the entire earth, not just a small area. As for this small spiritual projection, humph. He stood in the air, and the dark power of hell gathered inside his body, trying to tear open the spiritual world in the mirror space again, and escape back to hell. Fighting, it is definitely impossible to win. But if you don't try, how do you know? You can't escape. After all, it is a projection of part of the spiritual power. If it is left here, it will also cause great damage to the original body, and it will take a long time to recover. At this time, the wind whistled, and countless leaves turned into a long whip, whipping him back. Humph, just rely on this? Mephisto was about to fight back immediately. Then he saw the second long whip. Then the third, the 4th, the 100th and the 1000th. Thousands of natural whips whipped his spiritual projection, leaving it covered with bruises, and then it was torn into pieces and completely shattered. At the same time, other spiritual projections saw an opportunity. You mobilize the power of 2 worlds to deal with Mephisto, so how can you have the power to intercept us? A ray of fire shot up into the sky, and the spiritual projection and the original flame of the king of the fire giants Surtur were hidden in it, and flew out of the sky the first time. Then it sank into a large vortex. Under the influence of the strong wind, the rainstorm turned into a large vortex in the sky, swallowing Surtur. Goddess of death Hela, a weak existence in the father level, is more cunning than most fathers. She saw that all other spiritual projections were targeted. Most fathers and all sub-fathers were in a bitter battle or died, and saw that the Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Red Crane, Black Ox, and Black Panther were all fighting desperately, so she suddenly attacked. Not to escape, but to take the initiative to attack. There is only one target, Director Wang, who dominates everything. As long as she can kill Director Wang, she can end all this, and she can also take over this huge spiritual world, transform the pure life energy here into death energy, and erode the earth along the 5 giant trees that connect the 2 worlds. In this way, she not only gets a lot of souls, thus further improving her strength, but also can work together inside and outside to shake the seal, and unlock it in advance. At that time, even Odin will not be able to wrestle her. She will take over the earth, and become the strongest in the 9 worlds and even the entire universe. It's mine. Everything is mine. Hela was wearing a strange black tights that was not suitable for any occasion. She put her hands on her head and a black headdress that looked like many deer antlers appeared. She twisted her waist and walked towards Lao Wang. Her hands hanging on both sides quickly flipped, and 2 black swords appeared in her hands. It was condensed with pure death power. It did not belong to any material, but was a kind of energy weapon. It was more powerful than any laser weapon. Even in terms of sharpness and energy concentration, it was even better than the main gun of the Kree starship. It was enough to pierce the body of anyone in this universe, and take away their life and soul. She chose the right time, and even Lao Wang had to frown, because most of his spirit had to be used to manipulate the gifts of nature, to deal with other enemies, and there was no way to transfer it back, and there was too little power left in the main body. Earth, fire, water, and wind. The 4 elemental spirits blocked it at the first time, but were easily defeated and destroyed by Hela. Although her main body strength was slightly weaker than others, her spiritual projection was the strongest, and the black sword in her hand was most suitable for spiritual combat, so for Lao Wang, it was more threatening than others. The whole world was at war, and there was no help. Little cutie, I won't completely destroy you. I will keep your soul, and play with you. Hela had a cold smile on her face. Her figure was very gentle, but her attack was more ruthless than anyone else. Lao Wang stood still and suddenly raised a finger. A black light came out from the tip of her finger, and before she could react, it had hit her forehead. What is this ability? Hela was at least equivalent to 10 spiritual projections of Loki, and was defeated by a finger. This kind of damage directly to the soul was something she had never seen before, so she was very curious. Finger of death. Lao Wang smiled slightly, and looked up at the sky. Mephisto, Hela, Surtur, Lucifer. One after another, the spiritual projections of the fathers completely collapsed and remained in his spiritual world. Even the souls of the beasts can collapse but not disperse, and continue to pollute the spiritual world, let alone these fathers. In the collapsed spiritual power, there are also the remnants of the fathers. Although it will not have any direct impact, it will probably take a lot of time to completely solve it. It's really troublesome. Spiritual warfare is more direct than any other way of fighting. For Lao Wang, who is weak in body and strong in spirit, it is also the strongest way of fighting, but there are also big problems and big hidden dangers. Of course, these are not problems, just take it slowly. Lao Wang looked around. All the dark creatures were affected in this war. 99% of them died completely, turned into souls, and became the people of the spiritual world forever, contributing part of the power to the spiritual world. There are only a few left alive, such as Hellboy, Count Dracula, and the Valkyrie, who has always behaved a little strangely, and seemed to have other ideas. No, there is another guy. A guy who just now, somehow, escaped from the spiritual world, and returned to the mirror space. It's finally coming. Lao Wang sighed, feeling the darkness coming. All the spiritual projections added together were just appetizers. The next one was the real enemy. Chapter 441 Dormammu Invasion, Part 1. 1 minute ago, while Lao Wang was fighting with many heavenly fathers and sub-heavenly fathers, and the spiritual world was unstable, Caecilius, with the help of Dormammu's dark power, successfully escaped from the spiritual world, and returned to the mirror space. They are all dead. They are all dead. Recalling everything that happened in the spiritual world, Caecilius muttered to himself. All the followers are dead, and only he is left. This is undoubtedly a major blow to him, who originally had few followers. The forces he cultivated for so many years were destroyed in an instant, and all the time and energy he spent were scrapped. But for him, everything is unimportant. It's not just you who is delaying time, Director Wang. Caecilius sneered. All dark creatures, including those heavenly fathers and sub-heavenly fathers, are him, all pawns of Master Dormammu. The defense system of the three major temples and the barrier between this universe and the dark dimension prevent Master Dormammu from descending to this world. Not even a little bit of spiritual projection. But this is the mirror space, not the earth. The space here is not as stable as the earth, and there is no defense network protection of the three major temples. With the help of the spiritual projections of the 7 heavenly fathers and the 12 sub-fathers, the defense system of the 3 major temples was successfully broken, which allowed Dormammu and the dark dimension to descend in this mirror space. Now, everything has begun and cannot be stopped. Maybe before the master descends, I can get rid of Director Wang first. If I can really do it, it means I have made a great contribution. I believe that the master will definitely give me enough rewards, such as resurrecting my wife and children. Dormammu must have a way. He is the master of time. There was no time to waste. Caecilius walked directly in front of Lao Wang. Everyone is in the spiritual world, except for the resentful souls, ghosts, and demons that can enter the spiritual world. Everyone else's body is left in the mirror space, including Lao Wang. This is a rare opportunity. Go to hell. Caecilius clenched his right hand, condensed the energy of the dark dimension into an invisible spike, and stabbed Lao Wang's body. He had not been in contact with the energy of the dark dimension for a long time. His control over this strange energy was far inferior to the magical energy obtained from the Trinity of Vishanti, so there was no way to control it more delicately, and he could only present it in the simplest form. Sizzle. The harsh sound drilled into his ears. Looking at the void spikes blocked by the flesh and blood, Caecilius was stunned. This is not right. This is a spike condensed by dark energy. In essence, it is a distorted space manifestation. It does not belong to any material. It is even more advanced than energy weapons. If it must be classified, it has barely entered the ranks of artifacts. It can't be inserted. His body is actually harder than titanium alloy. No, it's almost as hard as vibranium. His skin contains extremely powerful energy, and it has the ability to resist magic attacks. This is somewhat similar to the energy absorption characteristics of vibranium, except that one is resistant and the other is absorption. His body is like a piece of vibranium with extremely strong self-healing and regeneration abilities. No, it's harder than vibranium. Compared to vibranium, he is more like that green monster, but he is much more difficult to deal with than that monster. Even if he is thrown into a magic storm that can destroy a planet, he has a chance to survive. Even in the elemental turbulence that can change the nature of matter, his body may still be preserved. But suddenly, a crimson light appeared in front of him, and the void spikes were blocked by the ribbon. Caecilius' face changed drastically. Satorak's crimson magic belt. How could I forget it? After all the calculations, he still missed this guy who had no sense of existence. He hurriedly wanted to escape, but it was too late. At the moment, when he twisted the space, the crimson magic belt had become wider and longer, wrapping Caecilius tightly and tying him up like a mummy. The next moment, the spiritual world suddenly disappeared, and Lao Wang opened his eyes. Amazing, they actually plotted against me. Feeling the dull pain in his chest, Lao Wang lowered his head. A wound that was almost invisible to the naked eye appeared where the void spikes pierced. Although it was not enough to make blood ooze out, a little bit of crimson appeared. It seems that my body is not strong enough, and I may not be able to compare with the Hulk. Lao Wang shook his head gently. Even a small character like Caecilius can hurt his body. The magic of this world is indeed unique, and the energy of the dark dimension is indeed high enough. Just a little bit of energy to distort and reshape the space can hurt his body comparable to that of the ancient red dragon. Dormammu's strength can be seen. And now, he is here. Not bothering to pay attention to Caecilius who was over-cultivating, Lao Wang looked up. The sky seemed to have a hole opened, and dark energy, far more massive than the ancient dark ritual, penetrated the barriers of dimension and space, and poured into this small mirror space. From top to bottom, the space, which was already distorted enough, became even more distorted. At this moment, Lao Wang seemed to have returned to the world of Warcraft, and came to the twisting void. This feeling was wonderful, even a little nostalgic, very comfortable, like a fish in water. The light in the sky was changing, colorful, and it was a wonder that did not belong to reality, as if to challenge the limits of imagination. Unless anyone saw it, they would never be able to imagine the current scene. The distorted space also distorted the light and even distorted the perception of ordinary people. Everything became incredible. A huge black hole appeared in the sky, like an energy vortex in the dark portal. Opposite the vortex was the dark dimension, in which there were planets eroded by dark energy. They looked very small, some with a radius of only tens of kilometers, and some even only hundreds or tens of meters. It was hard to believe that they were once real planets, and a large part of them might be as large as the Earth, or even much larger. In the past, they were swallowed up by the dark dimension one after another, transformed from matter into energy, and became part of the dark dimension. Devouring the Earth is only Dormammu's small goal. His ultimate goal is to devour all planets, all space, and all universes, and let everything return to darkness. In his eyes, there is never only a small single universe. It is the entire multiverse. Compared with him, Thanos is simply the embodiment of kindness and justice, a living saint. Dormammu, my master. You are the devourer of the universe, the destroyer of the world, the ruler of darkness, the owner of infinite energy, the master of time and space, and the giver of eternal life. Your humble servant, obey your orders and summon you to this world. Then use this mirror space as a springboard to descend to the earth. Cassilis looked up at the sky with a strong fanaticism in his eyes. Although he was tied up tightly by the Crimson Magic Belt and became a captive of the Old King, he was confident that the final victory must belong to Dormammu, and even if he died, he would be resurrected by Dormammu and become his spokesperson on Earth. What is death in front of Dormammu, who is greater than the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One? Noisy. The Old King waved his hand, and the Crimson Magic Band quickly covered Cassilius' mouth, and then ran to the edge of the mirror space. Are you kidding? That's Dormammu, the master of the Dark Dimension. Although his big backer is Satorak, the master of the Crimson Universe, whose strength is far above Dormammu, but he doesn't recognize himself. It's not that he doesn't want to help. The key is that he can't help at all. Only magic can fight Dormammu, and it must be at least the level of the Father. Although it has obtained a lot of Titan essence, it is still far from the level of the Father. At most it is the sub-Father level. Protect yourself and keep an eye on Cassilius, which is the greatest help to the Master. The Crimson Magic Band tried to convince himself. The crack in the sky is getting bigger and bigger, and the mirror space is constantly being eroded, and it will soon become part of the Dark Dimension. There are dozens of energy planets that can be seen by the naked eye, and there are thousands or tens of thousands of shadows in the distance. Over the long years, Dormammu has been devouring planets. The energy he has accumulated now is equivalent to countless planets. Lao Wang is not Doctor Strange, and he does not have the Time Stone. Of course, he will not run to someone else's territory. Even if he has it, he does not want to die again and again. More importantly, Earth is my territory. Relatively speaking, he prefers to fight at home, because it means that he is not facing the real Dormammu, but only a small part of the power. The difficulty has been reduced a lot. Sorcerer Supreme, Wanda, Crystal, Kamataj and the mystics of the three major temples, it's your turn to take action. I need your cooperation. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 442 The Hunt Begins, Part 2. Kamataj. In the courtyard usually used for training, all the apprentices of arcane magic disappeared. The Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One stood in the middle, and next to him were the few masters of arcane magic in Kamataj, the Librarian King, Baron Mordo, the holder of the Staff of the Living Tribunal, and the Wizard Hamel, who had lost one hand. Crystal stood on the right hand of the Ancient One holding the elemental staff, looking a little nervous. More arcane magicians stood behind them. At this moment, in front of them was a huge illusion floating in the air. That was the scene happening in the abandoned cemetery. It's the Dark Dimension. Dormammu is coming. Baron Mordo's face was solemn. In the past, he had fought with many dark creatures and magical powers, but there was no existence as powerful as Dormammu. Although he had seen records about Dormammu more than once in the Forbidden Library of Kamataj, this was the first time he saw the scene of the Dark Dimension coming with his own eyes. Not only was he shocked, but he also felt a strong fear. Such an existence, except for the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One, who could defeat it? Is his plan okay? Wang was a little worried. Although he had great confidence in the family, he was now facing Dormammu, the ruler of the Dark Dimension. Even the Supreme Sorcerer could only rely on the power of the three major temples to barely repel him. Where did he get his confidence from? I believe in him. Ancient One said, it's almost time, let's start. The three masters of the secret arts nodded quickly and cast a spell. Crystal and the secret mages hurriedly followed suit. At the New York Temple, London Temple, and Hong Kong Temple, the guardian mages of the three major temples also gathered and cast spells at the same time, guiding the magical energy they received from the Trinity of Vishanti into the magical defense system covering the entire Earth. This defense system created by Agamotto and continuously improved by successive supreme sorcerers concentrated most of its power on the sky above the abandoned cemetery to fight against the Dark Dimension that tried to invade through the mirror space. Two different forces were constantly fighting there. Ancient One, you will fall into darkness. Death and corruption have been following you. Eternity can't save you. One day, he will be swallowed by me. The earth will die. A huge, distorted figure appeared in the sky, powerful and mysterious. Just by peeping through magic from tens of thousands of kilometers, it has already shocked the mages of Kamataj and the three holy temples. As time passed, and the confrontation intensified, the eyes of the secret mages were dull, or bleeding from all 7 orifices, or falling on their backs, or acting like crazy. Only the masters of the secrets could barely hold on. It's Dormammu. Baron Mordo said in a deep voice, the secret mages can't resist his mental infiltration and dark storm. It's just mental trauma, which will heal soon. Don't worry, someone will help us solve this problem. Ancient One said, continue. As soon as the voice fell, all the mental infiltration disappeared, as if it had never appeared. Ancient One turned his head to look in another direction, and then nodded gently. She really didn't disappoint Director Wang, nor did she disappoint me. Supreme Sorcerer. The fat face of the king flushed red, and he couldn't help but say, Dormammu invaded with the help of the power of 7 fathers and 12 subfathers. I'm afraid we can't defeat him. It doesn't matter. Ancient One said, you don't need to defeat him, you just need to contain him, and create opportunities for Director Wang. Opportunity? Where does the opportunity come from? When fighting with a being like Dormammu, there will never be any opportunities. You can only create them actively. Baron Mordo and the king didn't say anything more, and tried to cast spells. Ancient One was as calm as ever, but her mental power had already crossed tens of thousands of kilometers, and came to the sky above the cemetery. She was ready to fight at any time, using her last strength and life to repel Dormammu, and protect the earth. But she hoped that Director Wang could really do it. Only in this way could she safely hand over the earth to him, and then leave this world. This is all we can do. Ancient One sighed in his heart. Next, you can only rely on yourself. Azeroth Laboratory. It's our turn. Scarlet Witch Wanda picked up the Mind Scepter, glanced at the Space Stone, and then looked at Iron Man Tony Stark. Mr. Stark, your mission is very important, and is related to the success or failure of this matter. Is that okay? Are you questioning me? Or are you questioning my team? Tony stroked his mustache. When have you ever seen me have problems? Afghanistan. Dr. Banner said. San Francisco. The Liberty City Villa. Dr. Pym said loudly. New York. Stark Tower. Fitz whispered. Tony, those were all accidents. What are you all standing there for? Work. Everyone quickly took their positions and started the equipment. Wanda opened the oversized portal, flew in from afar, passed through the equipment and everyone, and then disappeared. A second later, everyone arrived near the cemetery. It's really gloomy. Fitz felt cold all over, as if he was about to be swallowed by darkness. He looked at the screen in front of him, which kept displaying lines of numbers, and hurriedly shouted, "The degree is increasing. Mr. Stark, hurry up, or it will be too late." "Fitz, why have you become more and more nagging after you got married? It seems that I'm right. We can't get married." Tony snapped his fingers. "Dun Huang, did you hear that?" "I heard it, Mr. Stark. The equipment has been determined, and the parameters are being set. The setting is completed. The space gem is being activated. The activation is completed. Energy beam cutting and programming are being carried out. All completed. All 173 Azerothian soldiers are in place. Space isolation. Start." The ethereal voice sounded, and the space gem exuded a rich blue light. These lights were bound by the super strong force field, and then divided into tens of thousands of small beams. According to the strength and angle that had been calculated long ago, they intertwined in all directions, passed through an unknown distance, and finally shot into the chests of one Azerothian soldier after another who had been prepared long ago. They were immersed in the special equipment installed, and then divided again, becoming more small beams. Millions of beams of light intertwined in this area, eventually forming a super large closed network. If you look down from a height of tens of thousands of meters, you will find that it is actually a deep blue pattern. And if the secret master of Kamataj sees this scene, he will be surprised to find that this pattern is exactly the same as a spell recorded in the Book of Vishanti. This is a very high-end space spell that requires extremely strong mental power and control to complete. But now, through technological means and space gems, it can be done. This is the magic of technology. The space is isolated, and part of Dormammu's power is trapped. Fitz looked up and saw a deep blue light curtain appearing in the sky, dividing the sky into two halves. The lower half is trapped in the closed network, while the upper half is isolated from the network. "You looking for death?" Dormammu's voice was filled with a faint anger. The mental storm swept in. At this moment, Wanda flew into the sky with the scepter of mind in hand. Yellow light shot out and spread gently, forming a layer of mental protection force field visible to the naked eye, protecting everyone. A few seconds later, the protective force field opened in the opposite direction, getting bigger and bigger, and finally wrapped the hole in the sky, completely isolating Dormammu from the earth. It was at this time that the mages of Kamataj and the three holy temples felt that the irresistible mental pressure suddenly disappeared, and then they cheered up and continued to cast spells. "We can only use the Mind Stone and the Space Stone to this extent, and this is all we can do." Wanda looked at a place in the void above the cemetery and whispered, "Next, you can only rely on yourself." Chapter 443, The Power of Kalimda, Part 3. Very good. They have all taken action. Most of Dormammu's power has been restrained. This mirror space is his prison and his defeat. Next, watch me. Lao Wang looked up and saw a figure made of dark energy, which was many times larger than those energy planets. No one has ever seen Dormammu's body. Maybe he doesn't have a body at all. That huge energy incarnation is the enemy that Lao Wang has to face now. He and his dark dimension are now blocked by the three major temples and are fighting each other. The part of the dark energy that invaded the mirror space was cut off by the space gem and trapped. His mental storm, which was more terrifying than the ancient gods, was also isolated by the mind gem. The only thing to do now is to find a way to completely repel it, so as to give the three major temples a chance to gather their defenses and seal it. But before that, there are still some things to do. Dormammu. Lao Wang sighed. Now he has to face Dormammu's real power. That kind of power was too huge, and it was simply many times more powerful than the spiritual projections of the previous 7 fathers and 12 sub-fathers combined. It was worthy of being a cosmic boss level existence that devoured a large number of physical planets. Even in World of Warcraft, he had never encountered such a terrible enemy, which reminded him of the Lord of the Void. Dormammu was obviously many times more powerful than the old gods, and only the Lord of the Void could rival him. Descending from one dimension to another space in a single universe was like a fat man weighing more than 200 pounds, facing a narrow cave. He could only barely put 1 or 2 fingers in. Now he was equivalent to putting in a finger, stirring it constantly, trying to expand the cave. The power that descended into the mirror space might be only 1/10 of its full strength, or even 100th or 1000th, but it was still an invincible and terrifying enemy for Lao Wang, which exceeded the challenge limit at this stage. I must increase my strength as soon as possible. If he still had the peak strength of his previous life, he would naturally not be afraid. But now, I'm afraid he can only rely on external forces. Lao Wang raised his hands. The key in his body turned into big hands, pulling all the soulless bodies of those dark creatures over and putting them into the Heart of Azeroth. A mental glance, a smile appeared on the corner of Lao Wang's mouth. Sure enough, each of these old monsters who have lived for many years has a lot of magic equipment. Although most of them are at the level of hanging rings, there are also relatively rare artifacts, such as Count Dracula's cloak, Count Hell's giant sword, and Valkyrie's full body equipment. They are all the elites of all the dark creatures on the earth, and naturally have a lot of treasures on them. This time, Lao Wang has at least obtained half of the accumulation of the dark world for thousands of years. Even their bodies contain pretty good energy, and are very valuable. Should it be enough? Looking at those corpses and equipment, and then looking at the large number of Azeroth blood in the spherical space, Lao Wang has a bottom line in his heart. In the past month, he has extracted a lot of cosmic energy with the space gem, most of which has been left in the Heart of Azeroth, just for now. The total amount of cosmic energy is about equivalent to a few hundred grams of Azeroth blood. The original accumulation is still a few hundred grams. These corpses and equipment combined are probably equivalent to more than 1,000 grams of Azeroth's blood. If you calculate it, about 2,000 grams of Azeroth's blood can be exchanged for dozens of the lowest quality artifacts, or a decent high-level artifact. It is impossible for Lao Wang to say that he does not feel bad to squander so much Azeroth's blood in an instant. But he must do it. All the preparations, before or after this moment. Once successful, it will be an unprecedented harvest. Miss, I want to exchange. Lao Wang said. What? The power of Kalimdor. World of Warcraft, Azeroth, ancient Kalimdor continent. The end of the War of the Ancients. The Well of Eternity is charging an unprecedentedly large portal, and the energy that can create tens of thousands or hundreds of millions of sun wells is boiling. The Dark Titan Sargeras will cross the portal and destroy the whole world. Dragons, night elves, tauren, fur monsters, earthen spirits, dwarves, and humans. All creatures are fighting desperately with the Burning Legion, but the situation is getting worse and worse. Even if all the intelligent creatures in Azeroth were gathered together, they would not be able to contend with the Burning Legion, not even 100 or 1,000 Azeroths. Not to mention the Dark Titan that was about to descend. Even Archimand the Defiler, who personally broke the neck of Milorn the Road Watcher, was enough to destroy the entire world. No one could contend with him. He was the most powerful man and the most powerful creature walking on the land of Azeroth, bar none. In front of him, the night elves were as weak as ants, the gods of the wilderness were as docile as ordinary beasts, and even the huge dragons were just slightly larger. Flying reptiles, not worth mentioning. Even the dragon kings could not resist his power. In this miserable world, what other solutions are there besides destruction? There is still one way. At least there is one way. The young Malfurion looked up at Illidan not far away. The younger brother was absorbing as much energy from the Well of Eternity as possible, and then injecting it into the demon soul, using the dragon artifact that gathered most of the power of the 5 guardian dragon kings. To deal with the Dark Titan who was about to come to this world, or to deal with the Well of Eternity that could summon him to this world. Only by destroying the Well of Eternity would it be equivalent to destroying the portal. With the size and energy intensity of the Dark Titan, it would be difficult to find a second portal in the universe that would allow him to pass through. If he wanted to fly over slowly, it was unknown how long it would take, and there would be too many changes. This world would have time to develop and prepare. However, Illidan's speed of absorbing the energy of the Well of Eternity was not enough, and he still needed his own help. And before that, Archimand the Defiler must be dealt with first, otherwise the planet would be destroyed. Kalimdor, I pray that you will give me all your strength. Malfurion prayed in a low voice, and soon received a response from Kalimdor. Only by gathering the power of the entire planet can we fight against the strongest creature on Earth, without a doubt. He continued to fight with the demons, and suddenly his face changed slightly. Kalimda's response continued, and more power was pouring in. It would only take a while for Archimonde to be defeated. But, just now, that power suddenly disappeared. Tremble, mortal. A deafening voice sounded. Looking at Archimonde the Defilist riding towards him, Malfurion's heart was filled with despair. Chapter 444 I have experience in this kind of thing. Part 1. The power of the Dark Dimension continued to invade, and tens of thousands of attack methods appeared one after another. The mages had a hard time dealing with it. Magic Whip, Magic Shield, the Wind of Vatum, the Sacred Sword of Vishanti, the Crimson Magic Belt of Sitorak, the Mirror Space. One spell after another appeared in an endless stream. This was a spell cast by all the mages together, with the help of the 3 holy temples. The power was completely comparable to that of the Supreme Mage Ancient One, or even stronger. However, even a spell of this level could only slightly block the invasion of the Dark Dimension. What are you waiting for? Ancient One muttered to himself, with a hint of confusion in his eyes. She wanted to say something else, but she noticed something again. A smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, but her face was a little shocked. She was looking forward to what was about to happen next with a strong sense of doubt. That kind of power, where did it come from, and why did it obey Director Wang's call? The air suddenly became dead silent, as if the whole world had become silent. The wind stopped, and even the rolling dark storm no longer made any sound. The mages, scientists, and all the participants heard a roar that did not exist in this world, and then resounded throughout the earth. Then, the wind started to blow. A hurricane that was 100 times and 1,000 times more violent than before blew from the void, heading towards the sky, and soon came to the entrance of the Dark Dimension. All dark energy and all forms of attack were destroyed, and then swept into the Dark Dimension by the hurricane. No. Dormammu's huge energy incarnation was naturally not completely destroyed, but it was affected and repelled far away. Even with his strength, it would take time to get close again. Who can give him time? The black hole, which was already very large, slowly shrank and became smaller and smaller as the invading force subsided. What are you waiting for? Lao Wang seemed to be exhausted and felt unprecedented fatigue from body to soul. His voice traveled across tens of thousands of kilometers and was transmitted to the mind of the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One. It's your turn. It's incredible power. Ancient One was a little stunned, but he quickly reacted and cast a spell. All the mages followed suit. A golden barrier appeared, covering the entire earth, forming a dense magic network, filling the gap and restoring it to its original state, becoming airtight and flawless. Unless someone performed the dark ritual again, Dormammu could not be summoned, and it must be done with at least the power of the Sub-Father level to destroy the barrier, just like this time. Such an opportunity is not easy to come by. Perhaps it will never come again. The black hole completely disappeared, the invasion of the Dark Dimension was forced to stop, and even the remaining power in this world was isolated in the mirror space by the space gem, unable to leave. This battle was completely over. Lao Wang breathed a sigh of relief. After so many plans, it finally ended successfully. There is always a reward for the effort, and it is 10 times more than before. It was worth taking such a big risk. He turned and walked towards the mirror space. An invisible void spike suddenly appeared and pierced his back. Lao Wang's footsteps suddenly stopped. He did not look back, nor did he care about the void spike, because it was too late. It suddenly appeared, silently, with a force that was 100 times stronger than the Cassilis version. If Cassilis's void spike is considered a low-level artifact, then this void spike is a high-level artifact. In terms of sharpness alone, it is no less than the Spear of Eternity. Even the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One could not achieve this level of void mastery. Unless Thanos gets the Space Stone, probably no one in this universe can do it. That is Dormammu's killer move. Before he was driven away by the power of Kalimda, he used the last time to condense such a spell just to kill himself. How could he resist it? The reaction speed of the Crimson Band was already very fast, but there was no time to fly over to block it. Lao Wang did not waste time turning around or dodging, but seized every opportunity to mobilize the true energy of his whole body to form a dense layer of Genki. This layer of Genki condensed all the true energy of the Grandmaster. Even if facing Thanos' fist and giant sword, it could resist a little, but in front of this void spike, it was meaningless. It was pierced in the blink of an eye. Lao Wang had no time to teleport, and the spike itself had the ability to disrupt space, so he couldn't successfully teleport away with his own skills. There was no other way. There was no time to exchange any defensive spells. There was no time to use any monk skills. The only thing he could do was to resist. The void spike easily pierced Lao Wang's body, then pierced his heart, but did not penetrate his body. It suddenly spread out and split into hundreds of even smaller spikes, which exploded in Lao Wang's body and pierced his internal organs. One after another, tiny space cracks appeared, devouring Lao Wang's flesh and blood, as if countless ultra-macro portals had opened in his body, and the other side of the door was an unknown void. Lao Wang didn't even dare to move. The only thing he could do was to use his true energy to forcibly stabilize these space cracks to relieve his injuries. Wang. Scarlet Witch Wanda was the first to notice something was wrong and immediately teleported over your body. She couldn't speak and her face was full of worry. This was a spell at the spatial level. She didn't understand it at all, so naturally she couldn't help. It's okay. Lao Wang stabilized his injuries, raised his hand, and rubbed Wanda's beautiful and smooth hair, and smiled. You won't die for the time being. It's just a shell. If it doesn't work, just give up. I have experience in this. Wanda pursed her lips. I'll ask the teacher for help. No need. Lao Wang turned around and looked in another direction. She's already here. As he spoke, an orange portal appeared, and Ancient One came out. Director Wang. She walked in front of Lao Wang, looked carefully, thought for half a minute, and then said, I'm sorry, I can't help. But teacher, you have the Eye of Agamotto. You can. Time magic is very wonderful and dangerous. I'm still an apprentice who knows nothing about this. Ancient One said, Director Wang has the power of time and space. I'm not sure what effect it will have on him if time goes back. And you underestimate Dormammu. The energy of the dark dimension is originally related to time and space. I can't remove his spell. But, Wanda was anxious. What should I do? Don't worry. It's just a spell that can't get energy replenishment. I can handle it. Lao Wang was not worried at all. It's not that he hadn't thought about such a situation, nor had he not experienced it before. Compared with the 10 years in World of Warcraft, his life was too comfortable. He had never experienced a real life and death situation. Now it was just a little trouble, nothing. If he could fully control the power of the space gem, he could naturally close those space rifts one by one. But unfortunately, the corresponding ancient knowledge, even Odin's Book of Infinity recorded very superficially, and not many people knew more advanced knowledge. Thanos was one. This road is blocked, but it doesn't mean there are no other ways to go. It's not like he hasn't seen space rifts before. There are many in Dalaran and Kirazan, and the void storms in Outland are everywhere. If it's just to deal with it, Lao Wang has experience. Chapter 445, Unprecedented Great Harvest, Part 2. The dark forces of the entire Earth will be completely eliminated in the next period of time. I will let the Bureau of Divine Sticks cooperate with you in this regard. Lao Wang looked at Ancient One and said, in this way, you can shrink all your forces to Kamataj in the 3 major temples, and Dormammu will have no chance. Ancient One shook his head. For hundreds of years, I have fought with Dormammu dozens of times. He will always find a way to invade the Earth. Seeing your performance today, I can safely hand over the Earth to you. If you can repel him once, you can repel him 1,000 times. Of course. Lao Wang was not modest at all. Although it was Malfurion's power of Kalimdor, and not his own power, it was fine, as long as it could be used, and it could be used many times. Besides, I will grow up. When Dormammu invades next time, maybe I will already be a father-level existence, and there will be no need to be so troublesome at that time. What are you going to do with the dark energy? Ancient One asked. The dark dimension energy trapped in the mirror space by the space gem is more than 10 times more than what she got from the dark dimension when she held the dark ritual last time. If so much energy is not handled properly, I'm afraid that hundreds of kilometers will suffer. It may even become a huge hidden danger. If it is obtained by the bad people, it may be used to perform dark rituals and summon Dormammu again. I will handle it. Lao Wang smiled. Guyi nodded, guessing what Lao Wang would do, and said nothing more. That necklace, especially the pendant on it, is definitely a cosmic treasure that is no less than the Infinity Stones. It can even absorb and utilize the energy of the Dark Dimension. It is really incredible. Director Wang really doesn't need to worry about it. I will let the wizards find the location of other dark creatures, and let Crystal contact the Divine Bureau. Guyi said goodbye and teleported away with Cassilis. Boss, I have an idea. Fitz was instigated by Tony Stark, Dr. Banner and others. He trotted to Lao Wang and pointed to the trapped dark dimension energy and said, "Can you leave us a little bit? Just a little bit. It will definitely help us study the space gem." He stretched out his right hand, put his index finger and thumb together, and then separated a small gap. It looks small, but if the line of sight is infinitely extended, I believe it is not a problem to accommodate a galaxy. This thing is more dangerous than the energy of the space gem. Let's talk about it after you have studied the space gem more deeply, Lao Wang said. Fitz said a little regretful. He is really interested in those dark dimension energies. They are not only related to time and space, but also to dimensions and the universe. As long as he can study a little bit, he can get a Nobel Prize. If he studies it thoroughly, he will get more than 10 Nobel Prizes. Looking back at the big guys, Dr. Banner didn't react much, and Tony looked helpless. Director Wang's words are final. No one can change the decision he made. The dark dimension energy is in his hands. What can he do? Let's study the space gem first, and the others will come slowly later. There will always be a way. Lao Wang waved his hand, and the space gem flew to his hand. At least you have to be at the level of an Earth god to directly touch the space gem without being destroyed. Star-Lord, a descendant of the gods, was reluctant to use it, and Ronan, the accuser, was struggling. Talents at the level of the Hulk and Thor were not affected. If they had enough ancient knowledge, they could use part of the energy of the gemstone, a tiny part. If they used too much, they would be hurt by the backlash. This was no joke. Lao Wang's body was roughly the same as Thor's. The energy intensity was one level lower, but the soul strength was several levels stronger. His overall strength was already above him, so he was naturally not afraid. Moreover, among all the gemstones, the space gemstone was probably the one with the least side effects and the least to worry about. Recalling the relevant ancient knowledge in his mind, Lao Wang held the gemstone tightly. The isolated space shrank rapidly, and eventually became the size of an egg, which was stored in the Heart of Azeroth. This energy was at least equivalent to 20 kilograms of Azeroth's blood, which was an unprecedented harvest. Dormammu was a good person. He would leave a big gift every time he came. He was welcome to come often. It's a pleasure to have friends coming from afar, isn't it? Cassilis, I didn't kill you on purpose, and I hope Ancient One won't kill you either. I don't know what kind of surprise you will bring me. Lao Wang has his own calculations. Cassilis is just a small character, and he can't make any big waves. Besides, he is a very good boy who spends money. It would be a pity to kill him. It is right to fatten him up, and continue to kill him. What's worrying now is what to exchange for so many good things. Lao Wang shook his head gently. He has a lot of ideas, and he has to think about which one to realize first. Most of the elite dark creatures on the earth have been caught in one fell swoop, and the rest are easy to deal with. Lao Wang is naturally not interested in taking action, and his current state is not suitable for taking action. It can be completely handed over to Ghost Rider, Daredevil and others. As for him, it's time to find a place to heal my wounds. In addition, the remnants of the father and the sub-father left in the spiritual world should also be dealt with properly. Back to Kamataj, Ancient One saw Baron Mordo at first sight. He, the Librarian King, and the Wizard Hamel were all waiting in the courtyard, looking very tired. Of course, it would not be easy to fight Dormammu. Although they looked intact on the surface, they were actually exhausted. If they did not rest as soon as possible, they might suffer permanent mental damage and even become mentally ill. Supreme Sorcerer. After a respectful salute, Baron Mordo looked at Caecilius, who was tied up tightly by a magic whip beside him, with anger in his eyes. Caecilius. He was furious, and wanted to kill this guy immediately. He hated traitors the most, and this traitor had killed several wizards he knew, such as the predecessor of King. Caecilius has many secrets. Maybe we can find other fanatics through him. The Ancient One said, lock him up. Baron Mordo asked quickly, why not interrogate him immediately, and then kill him? The longer the night, the more dreams there are. It is right to solve it immediately. Although Domu was driven away, the earth has attracted the attention of many multiverse beings. You and the 3 holy temples have consumed too much power in this battle, and it will take time to recover. Only I can protect the earth. Ancient One naturally had his own difficulties. I must concentrate to ensure that nothing goes wrong. I don't have time to interrogate him for the time being. He won't speak easily, and this takes time. Mordo was a little unwilling, but still said respectfully, I will follow your orders, Supreme Sorcerer. Ancient One nodded. Caecilius is not easy to deal with. I need a master of secret magic to guard him. The guardians of the 3 holy temples are busy. Who of you is willing? Fatty Wang shook his head quickly. I have to take care of the library. Master Hamel rolled up his sleeves and revealed his broken arm. There is no other way. The disabled must be treated preferentially. Besides, Master Hamel is already very old, and he is more than enough to be the father of the king. Mordo had to say, I will keep a close eye on him. He will never escape. Chapter 446 Dealing with Hidden Dangers, Part 3. Amazon Forest. This tropical rainforest in South America covers an area of 5.5 million square kilometers, equivalent to 20% of the world's total forest area, larger than half of China, and is the largest primeval forest in the world. It is known as the lungs of the earth, crosses 9 countries, has a wide variety of biological species, and is said to produce 1/10 of the world's oxygen. It is also known as the Green Heart. No one knows how many kinds of animals and plants live in this forest, how many ancient species there are, and how many secrets are hidden. This is a paradise for nature, with giant pythons that are more than 10 or 20 meters long, and ancient trees that have grown for thousands of years. It is the most terrifying place for exploration in the world. While it is beautiful and mysterious, it also hides endless dangers. Just 2 months ago, the Amazon forest welcomed an uninvited guest. It was a young man in his 20s, who came from the north on a cloud, and walked into the forest. He exuded a breath of harmony and unity with nature, so he was welcomed by the whole forest. As soon as he arrived here, wherever he walked, trees and grass grew lushly, and even dead old trees regained their second spring. All animals followed him in groups, and didn't want to leave. At first there were only a few naughty monkeys, but soon a large number of mammals and reptiles joined, and then arthropods, and tens of thousands of animals merged into a torrent. These animals were not close to each other before, and some of them were natural enemies. But as long as they got 10 kilometers closer to the young man, they would calm down involuntarily, or their ferocity would be restrained, and they would follow obediently. The young man measured the land with his footsteps, and it seemed that he didn't need to rest at all. He never stopped from the second he came to the forest, and he walked at a steady speed. The speed was not particularly fast, about 5 kilometers per hour, but he could walk 24 hours a day, 120 kilometers. A month is 3,600 kilometers. Along the way, animals kept joining and leaving, and some of them followed from beginning to end. Among all the animals, the most eye-catching was a black panther. She looked bigger and longer than the common cheetah, with a shoulder height of about 1.7 meters and a length of nearly 4 meters. She was completely black without a single color, with a graceful body and an elegant walk. She followed the man all the time, never leaving. Other animals didn't dare to approach her at all, and kept a certain distance from her. Only some jaguars that came from nowhere dared to get a little closer, but they didn't dare to get too close. There was no male, only magnetism, because all the males were driven away by the black panther after courting, or scared away, paralyzed. One man and one panther walked forward, and the man suddenly stopped. This was the first time in 2 months. Not going anymore? The black panther yawned. Almost. The young man smiled slightly and sat cross-legged in meditation. The Black Panther quickly lay down beside him, adjusted to the most comfortable posture, put his head under the young man's hand, and let him stroke it gently, with a human expression on his face, seeming to be very comfortable. He is Lao Wang. 2 months ago, he came to the Amazon forest and used the most concentrated natural atmosphere in the world to fight against the restlessness of the remnants of many powerful people in the spiritual world. It was quite difficult at the beginning, but as his connection with this forest became closer and closer, he could mobilize more and more natural forces, and he became more and more handy. Those remnants were constantly eliminated, leaving only pure spiritual power, which became the nutrients of the spiritual world. The practice during this period of time has made his soul stronger, and his mental strength has also increased, which is better than before. More importantly, the space cracks left by Dormammu in his body have been almost smoothed out, and there are very few left. There is no better way, so he can only grind. Fortunately, there is nothing to worry about recently, and Lao Wang has plenty of time. 2 full months are used to do one thing. For an existence of Lao Wang's level, there is naturally nothing that cannot be done, not to mention it is just a spell. Sitting cross-legged in meditation, he continued to kill time. The sky gradually darkened, but the surrounding space continued to break apart, and even the big trees were severely damaged and covered with wounds. The Black Panther goddess Buster seemed to be frightened, and her fur instantly stood up and rushed 1,000 meters away. She felt that the surrounding space was becoming more and more stable, and there were no terrible space cracks. She felt a little relieved, but she still did not dare to be careless. She looked around with a pair of leopard eyes, very alert. You have to be alert. In the past 2 months, she had no idea how many times she had been injured by this kind of space crack. The total strength of this soul fragment was less than half of the original. If it continued like this, it would be completely destroyed. The last ray of light in the west disappeared, and Lao Wang opened his eyes. All the space cracks disappeared, and the wounds on his body were all healed. Even his cultivation level improved a little, and his body became stronger. In terms of cultivation alone, he had reached the late stage of the Grandmaster. Even in World of Warcraft, there were not many dragons with stronger bodies than him. Only those at the Dragon King level could be better. The physique of the abomination is probably similar to that of the ancient Red Dragon and the ancient Black Dragon. Considering the stratum corneum and bone layer all over his body, he is more like the humanoid ancient Black Dragon, such as the Black Dragon Princess and the Black Dragon Prince. In his normal state, the Hulk's physique is even worse than that of the abomination, but once he gets angry, his physique will increase rapidly. According to existing experience, he will not be better than Thanos at best, and even not better than Thor in his awakened state. He may not be able to match the Red Dragon Queen and the Black Dragon King, but may be comparable to the other 3 Dragon Kings. Thanos' physique is stronger than Hulk, and maybe even stronger than most of the father gods. After all, his strongest part is his body, if you don't consider his knowledge and wisdom. His physique is probably at the same level as that of the Red Dragon Queen and the Black Dragon King, and his overall strength is also roughly at the same level. As for me, my overall strength is probably still a little worse than that of Thanos, unless I'm promoted to a demigod. Lao Wang calculated silently, and shook his head slightly. Don't underestimate Thanos. The Titans are indeed very strong physically, and they have the ability to absorb cosmic energy, but this ability is limited. No matter how strong they are, they can never be as strong as the Father God. Thanos is probably the strongest Titan in history. He constantly absorbs cosmic energy and transforms his body. Don't look at the movie, he only fights with his flesh, and a set of military boxing makes the Hulk doubt his life, but in fact, that is because he doesn't need other fighting methods at all, or other fighting methods are not as effective and powerful as the flesh. If nothing unexpected happens, Thanos must have a long-range attack method. Like Captain Marvel, he has absorbed cosmic energy, so he can naturally release energy and manipulate cosmic energy. In Lao Wang's opinion, Thanos is more like a humanoid Black Dragon King, of course, the kind before he fell. Lao Wang knows the Black Dragon King Miltharion very well. It was he who sent Miltharion off on his way. He used his teeth to make the legendary weapon Dragon Father's Tooth. scales to make shields, weapons, and armor, dragon skin to make cloth armor, dragon bones to make jewelry, and source armor to sell to dwarves and goblins. So he knows very well how powerful that existence is. Maybe Thanos is even more powerful than Neltharion back then. He had obtained the Mind Scepter a long time ago, and he has been holding it in his hands for so many years, and he has ancient knowledge. Moreover, he is one of the most remarkable scientists in the universe. If you say that he has not studied the Mind Scepter, Lao Wang is the first one to disbelieve it. If you say that there is no result from so many years of research, he will not believe it even more. Mantis, who is good at mental control, has dealt with the baby god Ego and Thanos respectively. Both can only be controlled for a very short time, which is very difficult. In terms of mental will alone, Thanos may have reached the peak level of the father, no worse than Ego and Odin. It is impossible for mortals to reach this level, and Thanos is not too old. The reason why he can do this is probably related to the Mind Scepter. He is indeed a very difficult character to deal with. It is unknown to what extent his mental power has reached, and who is stronger compared to Arkham and the Polluter. Who is stronger, Thanos or Captain Marvel? Lao Wang has always been curious, but it is a pity that the two have never fought one-on-one, and in this universe, they probably haven't met so far. Both of them are strong men in the universe, both can manipulate cosmic energy, and both have bodies more terrifying than the Hulk. If you can see them fight with your own eyes, it will undoubtedly be a rare visual enjoyment, which will be good for understanding Thanos. Let's go. Lao Wang took a step forward, disappeared with the Black Panther Goddess Buster, and came to another place. Chapter 447 Captain Marvel vs Thanos, Part 1. 510,000 light years away, a planet with life. A starship floats in space. Carol Danvers stands at the front of the command room, looking at the outside world, feeling satisfied. That year, she freed herself from the shackles that the supreme wisdom of the Kree Empire had set for her, awakened all her powers, and knew that she was no longer an ordinary person, and had her own mission. A few years ago, he finally found a good habitable planet for the Skrulls, and then returned to the starry sky to fight against the Kree Empire. But it is not easy. The Kree Empire, which rules more than a dozen nearby star systems, is far more powerful than many people imagine. Although the Kree Empire does not have a second individual as powerful as herself, it has extremely advanced civilization technology. As long as she shows up, one or more Kree fleets will jump in and use those advanced weapons that can even destroy planetary energy to deal with her. This is a difficult and long war, a war between a person and a high-level civilization in the universe. As long as she is careful, she believes that she will win the final victory. It's just a matter of time. I don't know what the Earth is like now. Although she has some Kree blood flowing in her body, she comes from the Earth, and that is her home. But she can't go back. Only by fighting outside can she contain the power of the Kree Empire, and make the Kree Empire more cautious. Unless she solves herself, the Kree Empire will never dare to attack the Earth. If the Earth is destroyed, then what awaits the Kree Empire must be its more crazy attack. If she gives up the frontal attack, and chooses to infiltrate and assassinate, no one in the Kree Empire below the Supreme Wisdom will be able to sleep peacefully, and they will worry every day whether they can see the sun the next day. I hope everything is fine. The Milky Way is the territory of the Zend and Nova Corps. The Kree Empire and the Nova Corps have signed a peace treaty, and will not attack casually for the time being. Unfortunately, the Earth is too remote and the civilization level is too low, so there is no way to contact it at all. No, there is actually another way to contact it. I asked you to contact me when it is most dangerous, so you are so obedient and ignore me at other times? Have you never thought that I, an earthling wandering in the depths of the universe hundreds of thousands of light years away, am actually very lonely, and I really need someone to talk to and relieve my boredom? Aren't you usually very smart? Why did you become stupid? Thinking of the Black Agent, Carol smiled. She certainly didn't have any romantic feelings for that guy, but if there was any man on Earth worth caring about, that guy should be one. What a pity. That man's brain is made of charcoal like his head, the same goes for his heart. It's time to meet with the Skrulls. There are some things we need to discuss with them. The Skrulls were one of the three major empires in the universe before their decline, and they know much more about the Kree Empire than I do. If we want to completely destroy the Kree Empire, we must do it without the help of the Skrulls. The starship turned and then stopped abruptly. A starship that was 10 times larger than it appeared in the sky not far away. Majestic, dark, and terrifying. Carol narrowed her eyes slightly, and the concentrated cosmic energy began to condense. Having been active in this universe for so long, she had some understanding of the situation in the universe, and naturally knew the big guy in the distance. Temple Second, one of the flagships of the Titan Thanos, the location of the floating throne. That guy has a more resounding name, Thanos. We don't know him. What is he doing here? External communication request. The starship's intelligent control system prompted. Connected. The purple potato spirit in golden armor appeared on the screen. Carol Danvers? Thanos asked. It's me. Carol held her head high. That's right. You dare to deal with my Chitauri Legion and be my enemy, then you must pay the price with your life. Thanos' voice rang out. Fire. Hundreds of hatches opened, and missiles streaked through space, dealing a devastating blow to the much smaller Kree starship. Carol was stunned for a second. We have no grudges in our past lives, and no hatred in this life, and we are both wanted by the Kree Empire. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Why are you hitting me? Even according to the unwritten rules of cosmic criminals, in order to show their status and importance, they should challenge those with higher bounties with lower bounties, so as to increase their own bounties. After all, in the universe, whoever has a higher bounty represents who is more powerful and has more authority. As one of the most powerful civilizations in the universe, the Kree Empire has issued at least 10 million wanted warrants. In recent years, the one who has risen the fastest in ranking is Thanos. Now he is firmly in the top 3. Although he is confident that he is strong, the Kree Empire does not want to publicize this matter in order to cover up its shame, so the bounty given is not too high and ranks outside the top 100. Thanos, you actually hit me? Are you crazy? Do you still want to get a bounty from the Kree Empire? Thanos, you are looking for death. While she was stunned, Carol's body had already followed her biological instinct to leave the starship and fly into outer space. The energy drawn from the universe itself filled her body, and Carol radiated a brilliant golden light from the inside out. She suddenly exploded, and in less than 1 second, her speed increased to 1% of the speed of light, and then she collided with the first missile. Waves of cosmic energy were launched from her body and penetrated into the missile. The extremely high temperature even broke the Coulomb barrier, causing a nuclear fusion reaction. The missile exploded, causing a chain reaction. Other missiles around were also detonated, and a golden light left the sea of fire caused by the explosion and hit the second missile. Then the third and fourth. In less than 10 seconds, all the missiles were detonated. Thousands of fireworks were ignited in the space, which was extremely gorgeous. How long has it been since you last watched fireworks? Not bad. Carol stopped in space, tilted her head, and fell into nostalgia, missing the life on Earth that was a little bad, but still beautiful. The plain life is the real life. After destroying the Kree Empire, she will return to Earth, find someone to live a good life with, and watch the sunrise and sunset in a peaceful universe. Working at sunrise and sunset, isn't it quite happy? Thanos, are there any more beautiful fireworks? Please continue your performance. Temple Second. Master, she is more powerful than the intelligence said. Ebony Maw stood next to Thanos, looking at the scanning parameters on the small screen next to him, and said gracefully and slowly, she can absorb and manipulate cosmic energy, and can fly at sublight speed, light speed and super light speed. His body is very strong, not inferior to yours. She can use cosmic energy to strengthen her strength, maybe as powerful as you. I suspect that, if she absorbs enough cosmic energy, she can push the planet away from its original orbit. These abilities are consistent with the space gem. According to the latest intelligence, she once absorbed some of the energy of the space stone on Earth, and gained some of the space stone's abilities. But her use of this ability is very superficial, just like using the Kree communicator as a brick. Ebony Maw paused and concluded, she should not have mastered the ancient knowledge of the space stone. This is just a coincidence with a success rate of no more than 1 in a billion. A wonderful coincidence. The throne spun, and Thanos looked up, a good opponent. Master, Black Dwarf, who is taller than the Hulk, stepped forward, but was stopped by Ebony Maw. Let him have some fun. Ebony Maw showed an ugly smile on his face. For many years, the master has never encountered a strong enemy. That guy is barely won. Black Dwarf snorted. In fact, he didn't want to fight with that woman. He was not stupid, and he would not go over to seek death if he obviously couldn't beat her. In fact, what he wanted to say was, "Master, how about we retreat strategically first? I'm afraid you can't beat her." The hatch opened, and the floating throne floated into the space, and then floated in front of Carol at an extremely fast speed. "Submit to me," Thanos said. "As a reward, I can help you destroy the Kree Empire." Hearing this, Carol was stunned for another second. Thanos? Is his brain really crazy? Or has he been the boss for so long that he thinks he has some kind of kingly aura, and anyone who sees him will bow down and be willing to be a dog? You are also the mortal enemy of the Kree Empire, right? Your bounty can buy 100 life planets. Carol's eyes were dangerous. "Submit to me. As a reward, I can help you destroy the Kree Empire." There's no point in talking about this. Neither of us is Peter, so there's no need to waste time on talking. If we can't agree on the subject, let's fight. Chapter 448 I Want to Talk to Him, Part 2. Energy streams appeared in space, and cosmic rays and plasma beams emerged in an endless stream. Both of them are experts in manipulating cosmic energy, and can manipulate and transform any form of energy, even magical energy. They have been strengthened by the Infinity Stones, and are formidable opponents. At their level, ordinary fighting skills are no longer meaningful. Only the direct confrontation between the flesh and energy can determine the final victory. However, as time went on, the battle came to a stalemate. This woman, who looked quite plump, was actually stronger and more endurance than himself. The more she fought, the more excited she became. It was indeed the age of 40. No matter how hard she struggled, she was energetic and had great endurance. Her whole body, including her eyes, was glowing, eager for the light of desire to fight. Thanos has always been considered the most terrible lunatic in the universe. He has never defended himself, but now he feels a little wronged. Who is a lunatic? The woman in front of him is a real lunatic. In addition to being wronged, Thanos even felt jealousy that he shouldn't have at his level. Why? I'm Thanos, the son of the supreme leader of Titan and the most amazing scientist in history. Whether it was elementary school, middle school, university, or graduate school, I never compared my grades with any students. I was even too lazy to compare with those teachers because they had never been qualified to teach, and their knowledge level would never catch up with me as a student. Before I was 20 years old, I had mastered all the science and technology of Titan, which was many times more advanced than the advanced technology on Earth. In the following time, I continued to explore the universe and pursue higher and more ancient knowledge. I was making progress every day. It was difficult to find a top scientist as knowledgeable as me in the entire universe. After knowing the existence of the Infinity Stones, I tried my best to obtain the corresponding ancient knowledge and mastered it all. Then I defeated the holder of the Mind Scepter. Just like the past years, I used the Mind Scepter to manipulate the energy of the universe and strengthen my body, making this unique body in the universe harder than any metal. Even a star explosion could not destroy me. I broke the shackles of the eternal gene of the Eternal Clan and gave this body unlimited possibilities. Everything I have, my strength, my speed, my endurance, my ability to manipulate cosmic energy, my men and my men's men, I got it through hard work. Every ability of mine is the result of wisdom and sweat. And you? You know nothing. You are not even a scientist, but just an ordinary pilot on Earth. I learned more when I was 10 years old than you do now. Just because of an accident that is less than 1 in a billion, you actually have the same ability as me, or even stronger than me. Is this fair? Thanos was furious. His eyes shot out beams of plasma energy, hitting Carol's body, but failed to cause any damage, and was absorbed by Carol instead. The next moment, a woman's fist hit his head and knocked him away. Thanos raised his hands, and more cosmic energy was emitted from his palms, hitting Carol again, exceeding the limit of her ability to absorb and control in a short period of time, knocking her away. Thanos saw the opportunity and bullied Carol to engage in close combat with her. Although the fight lasted less than 10 seconds, he had seen through Carol. This woman could control far more cosmic energy than he did, but her hand-to-hand combat ability was much worse than his. As the most amazing fighting expert in the universe, he naturally knew what to do. Bang, snap, boom. Two bodies collided with each other, and four fists came and went. They came from the outer space of the planet to the nearby asteroid belt. The aftermath of the battle hit those asteroids, and it was unknown how many were destroyed. The battlefield kept changing, and soon became a satellite 100,000 kilometers away. Half an hour later, the surface of this satellite, which was originally protected by the atmosphere, was full of pits, and looked like it had been visited by countless meteorites. Another half an hour later, Carol hit Thanos dizzy with a headbutt, but was soon beaten by Thanos with a full set of military boxing. Whoosh, whoosh whoosh whoosh. Temple Second fired countless beams of destruction to stop Carol, and Thanos took the opportunity to return to his floating throne and fly back to the starship. Carol Danvers. Interesting. Thanos muttered to himself. Master, do you want to kill her? Ebony Maw asked. You can't kill her, and I can't kill her either. There aren't many things in the entire universe that can kill her. Looking at the violent, glowing woman who didn't dodge the destruction beams and infinite missiles, and crashed into everything without any harm, Thanos was silent for a few seconds and said, go back. Inform Gamora and Nebula to find the Power Stone and the Soul Stone as soon as possible. I can't wait. Half a minute later, Carol raised her eyebrows as she watched Temple Second warp away. It runs pretty fast. Thinking carefully about the previous battle, she seemed to be thinking about something. He doesn't manipulate as much cosmic energy as I do, but he is more skilled than me. His body is stronger than mine, but I can continue to strengthen it with cosmic energy. In this respect, he is not as good as me. His armor can barely withstand my attacks. His giant sword is very sharp and poses a threat to me, but not much. His fighting ability and combat experience are much better than mine. Generally speaking, our strengths are about the same. If we continue to fight, I may not win. What's more, I'm alone, and he has so many men, including Temple Number 2 and the 5 Obsidian Generals. What a tough guy. After the review, the previous doubts once again emerged in my mind. Strange, why would he come to me? We are all dealing with the Kree Empire. There is no reason for him to provoke me at this time. Does he want something from me? The only thing about me that he cares about is the ability I got from the Cosmic Cube. Does he want my body? Can he bear it? I heard that Thanos likes to have sex with women from all races in the universe. I don't know how many women there are in the whole universe, and how many offspring he left behind to spread the universe. Could it be? It's really disgusting. Thinking of this, Carol's face turned ugly. Of course there is another possibility. Carol calmed down and whispered to herself, Thanos may have known that the Cosmic Cube is on Earth. In order to get the Cosmic Cube, he plans to deal with me first and eliminate the most powerful protector of the Earth. After hesitating for 2 minutes, Carol finally made a decision. She pressed a button on her combat uniform. The red light flashed for a full minute before finally turning green. Carol took a deep breath and exhaled gently. Fury, it's me. Shield Trident Headquarters, Director's Office. Just after entering the room, wanting to deal with the things that had accumulated overnight, Luden was suddenly stunned. He took out an old pager from his arms, and his breathing began to become heavy. As the director of SHIELD, the king of agents, even if the president died in front of him, his heart would not beat more. But now his heartbeat was still accelerated, because this matter was more important than the death of the president. He quickly pressed the button, and a familiar yet unfamiliar voice came out. Fury, it's me. The voice was clear and a little cold, with arrogance in the coldness, and a little intimacy in the arrogance. The big face immediately appeared in his mind. Carol, Luden said in a voice as stable as possible. Long time no see. How long? Carol asked. She has been active in the universe, using the time set by the Kree Empire, so she has no idea how long she has been away from the Earth, if calculated using the time on the Earth. 18 years. Luden had a lot to say, and a lot of questions to ask, but he didn't know what to say for a moment, and finally he could only say one sentence. Are you coming back? It depends on whether the Earth needs me to come back. I'm very busy here and I may not be able to get away. Carol said, Fury, tell me about the situation on Earth in the past 18 years. 3 hours later. The Bureau of Divine Sticks? The Immortal Iron Fist? Director Wang? Carol couldn't help but smile faintly. An interesting guy. He can defeat Ronan the Accuser and the Chitauri army. Not bad. I will go back to see him when I have time. Do you think he is stronger or me? It's really hard to say. After all, you haven't fought. Luden didn't hesitate at all and quickly answered, of course you are stronger. 10 directors Wang can't beat you. Carol laughed happily. Although I knew that the guy must be lying, it sounded good. Thanos has set his sights on Earth. Carol said, Earth is very dangerous. If you need anything, feel free to contact me at any time. Didn't Director Wang seize Ronan's 2 starships? There must be a lot of Kree communicators. Ask him for one, and write down my contact information. The one I gave you is a modified one. It can only communicate within a few star systems, and the signal is not very good, which is inconvenient. I will. Luden replied. He had asked that guy for several Kree communicators a long time ago, and asked the technicians of the Ministry of Science and Technology to modify them. The thing in his hand is still the original pager on the surface, but the inside has been replaced a long time ago. There is nothing else, but he really can't bear to part with this shell. When people get old, they are always prone to nostalgia, which no one can avoid. Okay, I still have things to do here. Let's talk when I have time. Carol said, by the way, give me the contact information of Director Wang. What do you want to do? Luden realized that something was wrong. Nothing. Carol smiled slightly. Talk to him. You won't communicate with your fists? Luden didn't want to give it. Carol replied, I don't have time to go back for the time being, unless he is willing to come to my place. Luden finally felt relieved, and quickly sent his contact information to Carol. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 449, New Heart of Azeroth Functionality, Part 3. Strange, I always feel like someone is thinking about me. Lao Wang muttered and looked around. This is the center of the Amazon forest, and it is also the place with the strongest natural atmosphere in the entire forest. This strong atmosphere did not exist originally, and everything is related to a tree. About a month ago, Lao Wang walked here and planted a world tree. He even exchanged a lot of eternal well water for irrigation, so that the tree grew hundreds of meters in just 1 month. From a distance, it looks like a mountain with only one tree. It still continues to absorb the natural energy of this forest, draws nutrients from the depths of the earth, and grows very fast. This tree also appeared in Lao Wang's spiritual world. The reason why it took such a short time to eliminate all the remnants of many heavenly fathers and sub-fathers was actually because of its power, and through it, the power of the entire Amazon forest. After receiving your gift, I naturally have to give you something in return. I'm about to leave here, and I should also give you some power to protect myself. Lao Wang talked to the forest, and heard the sound of the wind. The wind is part of nature and part of the forest. Its sound is the sound of the forest itself. The Amazon forest is expressing joy and reluctance. The pan-consciousness of this forest has already regarded Lao Wang as one of its own, as its own child. Now that the child is leaving, it does not know how to keep him, and can only let a wisp of wind touch Lao Wang's face, leaving a moist breath. It is a drop of morning dew, and also the tears of the forest. I will come back to see you when I have time, and my spirit will sweep over here every day, so we are not separated. Lao Wang comforted softly. The Heart of Azeroth emits a green light, which is free as natural covenant. The closer the connection with nature is, the more natural forces Lao Wang can mobilize, and this ability will naturally become stronger. If the one who fought against those spiritual projections of the father and the sub-father 2 months ago was the current self, that battle would probably be much easier. The green light fell on the towering trees. They twisted their bodies, wrinkled their bark, and showed humanized facial features, and the entangled branches looked more and more like human limbs. Thank you for your gift, the creator. The giant trees can't speak, but they communicate with Lao Wang in their own way to express their gratitude. Lao Wang awakened them, endowed them with the spirit of nature, and opened their spiritual wisdom. This kind of kindness is no different from that of a reborn parent. No. To be precise, Lao Wang is their parent. Don't thank me, thank the forest that raised you. Lao Wang said, what you have to do is to protect the forest with your life, and don't let anyone hurt it. We will definitely protect our home. The intermittent voice sounded in Lao Wang's mind, simple and firm. He smiled slightly, and continued to awaken. It took a whole day to awaken thousands of ancient protectors, consuming 100 grams of Azeroth's blood. Almost. It stands to reason that Lao Wang could awaken more, but in fact it is impossible. The ancient protectors will continue to grow, and will absorb much more nutrients than ordinary giant trees to become stronger. This forest can't support too many, or 1,000 is already the limit. Too many is meaningless. In the face of modern technology, the ancient protectors are not much different from ordinary trees. They can only deal with those criminals who are not presentable, but not real enemies. Their position as scouts, and each ancient protector is an eye inserted by Lao Wang. With these eyes, he can always keep an eye on the Amazon forest. Once there is a problem, he will know it first, then rush to solve everything. It's time to activate other functions. The Heart of Azeroth has many functions, some of which are named after the titans of the Pantheon, and some are named after the Titan Guardians. In addition to Azeroth, the functions named after other titans require a large amount of Azeroth blood to activate. Although the dark energy obtained before is equivalent to about 20 kilograms of Azeroth blood, it is not enough to activate the Titan functions. But those named after the Titan Guardians do not require so much. So far, Lao Wang has only activated 2 in total. One is Mimilan Structural Matrix, and the other is Freya's Natural Covenant. The former allows Lao Wang to analyze any magic and technological items, and optimize and reconstruct them to a certain extent, thereby gaining a series of abilities such as teleportation, portals, mind control, and telepathy. The latter allows him to communicate with nature, and get its help. Each of these 2 functions only requires 100 grams of Azeroth's blood to activate, but it has brought great help to Lao Wang, and it is good value for money. Such functions are naturally the more the better. Each Titan Guardian has only 1 ability named, but there are far more than 2 Titan Guardians in World of Warcraft. Hadi, Thorim, Loken, Arcadus, Odin, Great Guardian Lei. What we need most now is which one? Lao Wang lowered his head and looked at his hands. Then a wisp of spirit entered the Heart of Azeroth, took a look at the dark energy, concentrated to the limit, and made a decision. Not every ability requires only 100 grams of Azeroth's blood. There is a difference between Titan Guardians and Titan Guardians. Some are stronger, some have higher positions, and some have obtained more incredible abilities from the Titans of the Pantheon. Among all the Titan Guardians, the one with the highest status is undoubtedly Grand Guardian Ram. He is the only Grand Guardian, the first general of Azeroth, and the leader of all Titan Guardians. Amanthor, the father of the gods of the Pantheon, personally selected some of his vast abilities and gave them to Grand Guardian Rab, and even gave him the equally incredible artifact Fist of Raden. In the Heart of Azeroth, the function named after him has the highest value, and the most Azeroth blood is required to activate it, up to kilograms. Odin, as the second general after Grand Guardian Rab, is second only to him. He also received some power from Amanthor. The abilities of the 2 are very similar in a large part, such as being able to control lightning. The other Titan Guardians are generally equivalent to Freya and Mimiran. The Old King is rich and powerful, so naturally he will not let any of them go and activate them all. A full 2,500 grams of Azeroth blood was consumed, and all 7 functions were activated. They are all pretty good. After browsing through them one by one and trying them, Lao Wang was very satisfied. These functions are more powerful than each other, and they are all related to combat effectiveness. After activating so many functions at once, Lao Wang's overall strength will naturally be further improved. Even if he fights Thanos or Captain Marvel, he may not have a chance to win. It's time to go back. I haven't contacted the outside world for 2 months, and I don't know what's happening outside. Just as he was about to open the door, a pleasant voice sounded. External communication request. From outside the galaxy. Outside the galaxy? Who could it be? Could it be Thanos? Lao Wang took out the Kree communicator and connected it. A projection appeared in front of him. Chapter 450. Conversation across 510,000 light years. Part 1. There are always some people who look so distinctive that they can be recognized at a glance even in a crowd of people. Carol Danvers is such a person. The iconic big face, the iconic combat uniform, and the iconic arrogance. Lao Wang has seen many proud people, and the most typical representative is Tony Stark. He is a guy who rarely takes others seriously, and is always self-centered, but he also respects certain people, those who can talk to him face to face on a scientific level, such as Dr. Banner. The one in front of him is different. Perhaps it is, because she is too strong. She has never encountered an opponent after awakening. She has been smooth sailing for 18 years. She lacks setbacks and tempering. Lao Wang searched his memory and still couldn't find anyone who could let her let go of the stubborn and even perverted pride in her heart. This person is a representative of arrogance. But compared with those small characters who are destined to fail, she has the ability to match her pride, which makes people feel even worse. Carol Danvers. Lao Wang said calmly, "Nice to meet you. You know me." Captain Marvel frowned slightly. "Did you know me from the Kree Starship database, or did Fury tell you?" "The former." Lao Wang asked, "What do you want from me?" He was always humble to humble people, but to proud people, he would only act more proud. Lao Wang's attitude made Captain Marvel a little unhappy. In this case, she liked to use force to make the other party humble, but now she was 510,000 light years away. No matter how powerful she was, she couldn't do it, and she couldn't go out of her way to beat someone up, so she had to choose to ignore it. "Do you know Thanos?" Carol raised her chin. "I know. He is the leader of the Dark Order and the master of the Chitauri." Lao Wang said, "More than a year ago, I killed his superstars, destroyed hundreds of his Chitauri spaceships, and thwarted his plot. He sent the Chitauri to invade the Earth, in order to obtain the Cosmic Cube." Captain Marvel said, "Fury told me that the Cosmic Cube is in your hands, as well as the Mind Scepter that was stolen from Loki." "Yes," Lao Wang replied. "Thanos will not let you go, nor will he let the Earth go." Captain Marvel continued, "When his army arrives at a planet, it will massacre half of the population of that planet. No one knows why he does this, but there is never an exception. I just fought him, and he is very powerful. I will send you the video of the battle, take a closer look. I know this, so I won't tell you." "Wait, Captain Marvel and Thanos have fought? Who won?" A stream of quantum information was sent over, and then transformed into a three-dimensional projection, appearing in front of Lao Wang. He remained calm and watched carefully. Captain Marvel was wearing the single-soldier combat uniform of the Kree Empire Star Troopers, which had the function of data analysis and process recording. Lao Wang saw not only the battle scene, but also the corresponding analysis data. These data covered many aspects, such as what methods the two sides used, what cosmic energy they manipulated, what the two sides were best at, and what their biggest weaknesses were. Lao Wang had his own analysis method, and the more he looked, the more surprised he was. Captain Marvel's strength was indeed as strong as the legend, and it seemed that this was not her strongest state, and there was still a lot of room for improvement. It was unknown when she could open the binary star state. Thanos was exactly as he thought. Not only could he fight in hand-to-hand combat, but he could also manipulate cosmic energy. However, compared with Captain Marvel, he obviously manipulated less cosmic energy. Captain Marvel was a serious fighter, and Thanos' first profession should be a scientist. Fighting was just a hobby, just for fun. Personal combat power was only a tiny part of his comprehensive strength. His equipment, his troops, his spaceship, and his wisdom. All of this added up to make him complete. Captain Marvel had a lot of room for growth, but Thanos had greater potential. As long as they don't fight face to face, Thanos can beat Captain Marvel. After Lao Wang finished reading, Captain Marvel asked, "If he arrives on Earth, can you stop him?" Lao Wang did not answer immediately. As long as Odin and Ancient One are not dead, Thanos will never attack the Earth himself. That would be courting death. Captain Marvel doesn't know the Earth or the 9 realms at all. She may not even have heard of the Infinity Stones. She really thinks that her ability came from the Cosmic Cube, and she doesn't know that the real work is actually the Space Stone. Why is she asking this now? Do you care about the Earth? This is probably the only reason, and it is easy to think of. After all, no matter how far a person has gone, or how strong he has become, he must have a home, and people like him, so that he will not be lonely, and have spiritual sustenance. The same is true for Captain Marvel. She will definitely not be willing to watch the Earth being destroyed by Thanos, even if it is just to eliminate half of the population. What is Captain Marvel? Marvel is Marvel. Captain Marvel is Captain Marvel. Her positioning has surpassed the superheroes on Earth from the beginning, and her personality also destined her not to stay on Earth. Spider-Man is a good neighbor, and a good citizen of New York. He believes that with great power comes great responsibility. Iron Man has always taken protecting the Earth as his mission, which is also his capital of pride and boasting. Captain Marvel is actually very similar to Tony in some aspects. This person probably has a special sense of honor and mission, and believes that protecting the universe is her responsibility. Such a person is really very special. Thinking of this, Lao Wang calmly replied, yes. He may not be able to kill Thanos for the time being. The power of Kalimdor cannot destroy such a powerful existence, just like it cannot destroy Archimonde. But if it is just to stop it, the difficulty is not too great. Very good, so I feel relieved. Captain Marvel was very satisfied with Lao Wang's answer. You come to protect the Earth, and I will protect the universe. If he comes, you must stop him as much as possible, and notify me as soon as possible. I will rush over to kill him as soon as possible. With you here, he will definitely not be able to succeed. You are really confident. Lao Wang thought about it, and suddenly asked, Captain Danvers, have you helped the Skrulls find a new home? Why do you ask? Captain Marvel replied, yes. Lao Wang continued to ask, can you tell me what the current situation of the Skrulls is? As far as I know, the Skrulls were once one of the 3 major empires in the universe, as powerful as the Kree Empire. The Skrull Empire no longer exists. Captain Marvel said, the Skrulls fled to various parts of the universe, and were massacred by the Kree Empire. The remaining people are contacting and gathering. The Skrulls have established a unified government, and have a very remarkable queen. Skrull Queen? Daughter of Talos, leader of the Secret Invasion, founder of the Dark Dynasty? Sure enough. What is whitewashing? If you are black from the inside out, how can you whitewash it? The old king carefully considered his words and reminded Captain Danvers, there are no innocents in war, only winners and losers. If the war between the Skrulls and the Kree is won by the Skrulls, the Kree will not have a better ending than the Skrulls now. Captain Marvel frowned slightly. This person just wanted to say that the Skrulls might not be reliable. This is not important. What is important is that Talos is my friend, the Kree Empire is my enemy, and helping the Skrulls is Mavel's last wish, so of course I have to fulfill it. As for if the Kree Empire is defeated or even destroyed, will the Skrulls plot to dominate the universe like the current Kree Empire, or even attack the Earth? She is not worried at all. Over the years, she has fought with Ronan's accusation group many times, and eliminated a lot of the Kree Empire's living forces. The Kree Empire, which was originally fighting everywhere, was forced to give up many battlefields and even signed a peace treaty with the Nova Corps. The biggest contributor was herself. How could she be afraid of the Skrulls' invasion, when she could make the Kree Empire bow down by herself? You don't need to worry about the universe, Director Wang. It's your duty to protect the Earth. Captain Marvel said. Lao Wang sighed inwardly. Whether it's Captain Marvel or Tony Stark, such extremely proud and self-centered people are almost impossible to be persuaded. They are natural leaders. No one can change what she has determined. Forget it. When the time comes, we will talk about the future later. If it really comes to that time, even if Captain Marvel can't stop everything, don't I still have me? Anything else? Captain Marvel asked, implying that she was very busy and had nothing to do, so she had no time to chat. See you when there is a chance. Lao Wang cut off the communication and shook his head. Captain Marvel is a representative of feminism. Many people like this kind of person, but many people don't like it, especially men. It doesn't matter. These have nothing to do with me. Since she fought with Thanos in advance, she would not let Thanos have an easy time. This is also a good thing for herself, the Earth and mankind. It can delay Thanos' steps and make his treasure hunt less smooth. Put the universe aside and take care of the Earth first. After all, if we calculate the time, the troubled Earth, and even the entire 9 realms, is about to face a huge threat. Lao Wang did not return directly to the Azeroth laboratory. He released his spirit and looked at the current world and said at the same time, Adam, tell me what has happened on Earth during this period of time. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.